And we're live. Hi, everyone. It's so good to see you, except I'm not seeing you, but you know what I mean. It's so good to be here and to be able to know you're on the other end of this, even though I can't see you. Um, yeah. And for those of you who will be watching this on the replay, I'm happy you can watch too, one way or another. I love this technology. I have such a love-hate relationship with technology. You can ask my husband; he loves technology. I absolutely hate it for so many reasons. I just want to reach through cameras and reach through the computer and actually uh, feel people, be actually real in right there with you and talking to you and sitting next to you and across from you but of course we can't do that. So I love technology because I get to meet you. And I would never have met how many of you that I have met around the world if it weren't for technology. So this is my love hate relationship. So if you ever have any technical problems with any of my programs or anything that comes up, do not hesitate to reach out and just send me an email and let me know you're having problems with whatever it is, trying to access something or trying to figure out something that has to do with technology, because I totally get you. And I don't ever feel like there's something wrong with you that you don't understand how something works. So if there's anything technical that keeps you from doing anything, or figuring out how to download a program of mine, or figure out my calendar when you send it for coaching and I send you a link to my calendar. If you can't figure anything out, I'm a safe place to come right and out and just say I can't figure this thing out, because I'm right there with you for half of this stuff. I look at it, I scream, I tear my hair out, try to figure out how to do this thing, and then I ask my husband, and he makes it look so easy, but it is never that easy when I try and do it. And if I told you how I create folders and how I found out how I've been creating folders and in my email, and he just showed me the way that he does it, and I'm just like, wow, that was so much easier than what I do. But I'm stubborn, so I don't like to have someone. I like to be able to figure something out for myself too. So anyway, it's a really interesting combination around here. But anyway, that said, yeah, I'm excited you're here. Lolly, hi from South Africa. Nice to see you. We're really early. I think you're up early. I usually try and do a afternoon one here so that it's not too late for some of you, but I think some of you are waking up early. So nice to see you. Who else have we got? Kathy from New Jersey. Hi, Kathy. Nice to see you here too. Um, where else in the world? Have we got anyone from Australia on this time zone? Um, Lynette's here. Lynette, I'm so glad you're here. If you're crying, you know how many calls I get on, and someone just hears my voice and they start crying and they're like apologizing. I'm like, no, 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 no. This is the place for tears. This is where you can feel safe to have feelings, because that's all that I am about. Is you got to feel stuff, and you have those tears, you go through those tears, and you shed those tears, and you cry that river, and you feel better on the other side of it. So those tears are beautiful, and do not ever apologize for tears. If you can't cry with someone, then you're with the wrong person in a lot of ways. But also you can realize that if you can't cry with someone, then they're not someone to shed those tears with. Go find someone who can handle your tears. Not everyone can handle them, but you can handle that. You just need to find your people. But finding your people in the midst of whatever you're going through is so 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 important. Okay, we've got so Lynette, I'm so glad you're here through your tears. I'm so glad. Deb's here from Perth. I just talked to someone yesterday from your lovely part of the world in Perth, in Australia there. Calgary, Alberta, Lynette. Oh, Lynette, welcome. And Lindsay. Hi, Lindsay from New York City. Oh, I hope things are going better for you. I've been thinking so much about you after our call. Erica from Mexico. Hi, Erica. You're in their warm, sunny spot there too. And Lolly, yeah, 3 in the morning. I figured you were getting up really early, so I'm glad you are and you're here for it live. I'm going to be answering you later on. I got lots to say. So, All right. Well, I'm going to get to it, but thanks for being here and spending your evening or early morning with me, and or the next day, as the case in Perth, in Australia. I always love that. I feel like I'm time traveling when I talk to you over there. Okay, so I had a late one come in, and I almost missed it, but I didn't miss it. You're here. So Alex, if you're here, Alex, are you here? I got it. I got it. You were saying you were getting this to me late, but I got it. You're good. Okay. So Alex said that, okay, so I've been talking to someone about a year. We get along on every level. We talked typically 3 or so times a week. We've tried to meet up once or twice, but planning a trip to spend time with someone you don't know has its own awkward issues. Yes, absolutely. About 6 months ago, I missed a couple of his calls and he sent a text saying, "Tell that guy to go pound sand because he's not giving up." Okay. Recently, he started a new job and now he rarely calls. I sent him a text telling him to tell that girl to go pound sand because I'm going to haunt him forever if he misses out on me. He responded back with, "Sorry, I've been so damn busy, have not given up on you at all, just the opposite." I have no idea what that means. Haven't heard anything else. It's not like I'm sitting around waiting on him or anything, but I've done all I can to move it along. But I've done all I can to think of to move it along. But, and that's her question mark. But so she's thinking there's something more she needs to do and she wants to know what that is. Lindsay, I got yours too. So good. Oh, and Alex is here. Hi, Alex. Yeah, I just good. You're here, so you can fill in some of the blanks. So this is interesting, because okay. So let me just go back to recap. So this has gone on for a year is the time frame. That's always important. Like, how long is this at the beginning? Is this, how long have you known someone? There's a different for everyone. The length of time that you have known someone, the level of comfort that you should feel with someone should be parallel to that. It should mirror that. So the longer you know someone, the more free you should be to be yourself with that person and to communicate, talk about things when there's issues. Okay. So that's really, really important here. So it's been about a year and you talk about 3 times a week. Okay. So that's how often you contact. So you haven't met him yet is what I'm hearing. So we've tried to meet up once or twice, but planning a trip. Okay. So you don't know him yet. So you've been just talking to him. So I'm okay. So you've just been talking to him. You haven't met him yet, but it's been going on for a year that you've been talking to him. And it doesn't really, So this idea that he's saying when you miss his calls and he sends a text saying, "Tell that guy." So he's already jumping in. Okay, never in person. Thank you. That's really helpful. So he's jumping in here with telling you he's jumping to the jealousy thing right away. Okay, that is going to be a big red flag. You met online. Okay, perfect. So the first thing, thanks for filling in the blanks. That's helpful. So yeah, I don't think this doesn't sound like much of a relationship here at all. Because I guess what I'm looking at, okay, is we've tried to meet up once or twice, but planning a trip to spend time with someone you don't know has its own awkward issues. But you have to meet this guy if you're going to move forward and be anything more than just a conversation. And I get it, with the pandemic and travel and everything, the last couple of years have been a different kind of couple of years. I totally get that, regardless of how you feel about traveling and all that. But, it sounds like this idea that you really haven't even met in person. You haven't had a chance to get to know each other except online and except through calls and texts. The issue is that just doesn't give you a whole lot to go on, and it doesn't tell you much about how he feels about you, how well intentioned he is, what it allows for a lot of hiding and a lot of secret living and a lot of keeping his own life very compartmentalized from you, and he doesn't have to explain anything because this is really just non-existent. I think it's great that you can meet people online and you can have long distance type relationships, but at some point you guys have to meet. And so my concern is that unless you are holding off on meeting him, so unless you're the reason that you haven't met him yet, if this is coming from him and he's dragging his feet on this, or he's the one who hasn't planned a way for you guys to meet in person, if this is anything but you choosing to hold not go ahead with the planning and you're driving this, then this is like there is no relationship, because he needs to be wanting to meet here. So I don't know, have you reached out to him? Have you talked to him in this area about meeting in person? Have you? So I guess that would be my biggest question here. Is this coming from you, or is this that you haven't met yet? I mean, would you like to meet him? And is the holdup on his end, or is it on your end? Because that would be my thing here. If it is him who's the holdup and he has not pushed forward to plan something, then he is not looking for anything real, and he is just looking for someone to talk to, and that's it. He's looking for someone to string along. I mean, he might even be a good guy, although from this, I have my doubts on just how well this is going. But if he is not wanting to meet you in person, if he is not wanting to see who you are, to figure out should this go further, I mean, if he's not driving this where he wants to meet you and get to know you better, he's content here. So okay, it was on your end at first, so you were holding off at first. Okay, that's helpful. And then I guess that would be a question of why. What is your concern with me? Do you want to keep it kind of at this level? Are you hesitant to meet online? Do you have your doubts? Or is it just, how much of this, my bottom line here, what I'm looking at is how much of this, okay, so you haven't been able to schedule time with the new job. So how much of this is that you have some doubts here that might be some red flags? How much is this working for you? Because if you are, I mean, yeah, he's really busy. He's got a new job. It's really hard to schedule time. And I get all that. I get that. But at the same time, this has been a year, and that is a really long time to not meet in person. Now, if this works for both of you, that you're just taking it really slow and you're just, you haven't met in person yet, and you've got busy lives aside from that, maybe you have kids, maybe you have other stuff going on. I mean, all of that is possible. So this is possible that you can just have an online, over the phone relationship type thing, but only if it works for you. So if this in any way doesn't work for you, then that's the thing that changes this. Because if it doesn't work for you, then this is where you would communicate to him, hey, I'd like to, we need to meet up in person. It's been a year, so let's make this happen. And you don't have to put it on him. You don't have to give him the power here and basically say, I'm waiting for you to do this. I'm waiting for you to plan it. You go ahead and you say, it's been a year. We need to meet. Let's meet up. And you can either pick, like, I don't know how far apart you are. So whether you pick a neutral spot halfway between the two, whether you have him come to see you. I do understand if you've got some hesitancy about going to see him, because that does set, something up there. But okay, so it doesn't anymore. It's not working for you anymore. Okay, so and it's possible it never worked for you, and it maybe you're just used to accommodating and going along because he hasn't said anything. But if it doesn't work for you anymore, then and I don't think it should. Honestly, I mean, there are very few women who would be content with this. That's why I'm saying, or very few people would be content with this. Very few men who should be content with this either, if they're looking for the same thing you are. So, yeah, it doesn't surprise me that it's not. But so it's at this point that you would say something to him, and you can keep it light, but I would say something. I would communicate something so that there can be a definitive answer here that you guys are going to meet, and so that you can decide from here where you're going to go from here. I mean, you may meet him and you may have a chance to actually be in person with him, and he may not be what you expected. You may not be what he expected. And there's that's no fault of anyone, except it just, meeting in person can be different. So no, so I think, so what I would do is I would say, it's been a year. I'm ready to meet you. Let's meet up. Let's do something. Let's meet up. Let's do something fun. The best thing to do would be to meet somewhere neutral, because I'm not sure about having him come and I don't want you going to him. So I don't want you to plan to go to him. That sends an early message. And this goes for even if you're not that far. If you're driving to see someone, I don't ever want you going to see someone, driving to see someone. I don't want you doing that. I know way too many women who have driven even, all over distances. And it's not good, because it sets up this pattern, or this expectation that you will go to them. They can get you to go wherever they are. And you can say, oh, but I love to travel, or I love to drive, or I love to fly, or I love going new places. But it's different, because you're going somewhere that means you're going to him. He is not having to do the work, is the bottom line. He is not having to show you, and to show, basically to support the idea that he is into you, that you are worth it, for him to take the time to plan, to put out the money, to figure out the logistics, to do what he needs to do to figure out how to get to you. So the problem is, if he's not doing that, that's telling you very clearly that he's not willing to do that, or he doesn't prioritize you enough to do that. It shows you something. So if you're just going to him, you never get to see what he's capable of. You never get to see, and what he isn't. You never get to see that, because and this is from someone who always went and flew to see someone. Always. That was my thing, right? So it was, and I justified it because it was an adventure. And I was always up for an adventure. But what I missed in there was, I was the one doing all the work. I was the one doing essentially the chasing. I was the one coordinating the logistics. I was the one, he was paying for it, but it was, everything else was me doing, logistically doing it, getting on the airplane and taking the time and doing all that. And I loved the adventure, but I never got to see what he was doing, because I didn't give him a chance. And so I never found out valuable information, which was that I jumped in quickly and said, and just went with that I was going to go see him, or even offered. I either offered to see him, or when he suggested that I come up there, I immediately jumped on that too. And so I never got to see, like, how does he prioritize me, and how does he prioritize things in my world? And again, so anyway, so Alex, what I would do is I would say, hey, it's been like, you can keep it light. That's my main goal for you, is to keep this light, because I don't want you to come across like the demanding woman who says, we have to meet up. It's been, I don't want him to be able to just label you as, oh, she's nagging, she's this. I don't want that for you, because that's not true. It's that after a year, it's more than a reasonable request, that way more than a reasonable request, that you would like to meet up. And so it's important for you to be able to say to him, in a lighthearted type way, okay, it's been a year. We need to meet. So let's meet. And then you pick a neutral place. You pick a place that's fun and sounds light. And because, again, I don't know how far apart and everything you guys are and what's involved in the planning of the trip, but I would meet somewhere. That would be the best thing, is to have both of you meet somewhere. Now, if he's coming to, because there's someone else I was just talking to last week or something, and she was saying there was a guy that she had met a long time before, and they hadn't seen each other in a long time, but he was planning to come out, And so what we clarified is that if someone is coming to see you, it needs to be that he is staying not with you. So he needs to figure out the logistics to stay in a hotel or an Airbnb or somewhere. He needs to figure out where he is going to stay, and it can't be that he's coming to stay with you. So I don't know, again, how involved and how far and distances and that type of thing. Oh, that's easy. Okay. So you're in Mississippi, he's in New Mexico. Okay. So you've got, I could just have asked you. I could have asked you that, and then that would have been easier. Okay, Alex. So you're a few states away, and so it's going to involve travel and all that. And so, yeah. So, I mean, is there a neutral place? Is there somewhere in Texas? Is there somewhere, New Orleans, or is somewhere, I don't know, is there somewhere neutral that would be like a vacation spot? Or, is there a vacation spot, where you, although I think you need to see him for a shorter amount of time, because I think this should be less about the planning of a vacation with him. You're not on vacation with him. You're not going away on a vacation. You just need to meet somewhere. And yeah. So, I mean, honestly, I think what I'd like for him to do is I think the neutral place is good. I mean, I'd like for him to be able to say, hey, I'm going to fly over to see you. I'm got a place here. I'm going to be staying in such and such a place and all this. I guess how well do you know him? Like, do you know, my concern is a little bit for your safety here. I want to make sure you know him well enough, and I don't want you to assume you do just because it's been a year. You can know someone. I've known people who know people for a lot longer than that, and they really knew nothing about him. So, that's a big part of it. But I don't want you to wait for him, because if you wait for him, you're going to feel like you have no power, and you're going to feel like you have to wait for him on all these things, and it's not. Yeah, the power shifts when you're waiting is not good. So yeah, I'm assuming you've zoomed, or you've been on something, you've had virtual dates, right? I'm assuming that. So you've seen him, right? Like, you've seen him in person. You think you know him pretty well. Okay, so if the safety is not an issue, then if that part of it is not an issue, then why don't you guys, no, I don't want you to chase them either. So I mean, honestly, what would be best, and who the women that I've coached who've done this, with long distance type relationships in the beginning, the best case scenarios were with someone who was in the middle, where you could meet in the middle, somewhere neutral, somewhere that would be something that would be fun to do. I mean, is there a concert or something? Is there like something? Is there like, yeah, that would be something. And again, finances. Yeah, I mean, I'd like him to pay to fly out to come and see you and get a hotel and or an Airbnb, or just have the logistical arrangements there, and say, let's go out on a date, and he just shows up. And takes you out, but isn't staying with you, and that would be the ideal situation. So I think, because I don't want you getting on a plane and flying out there and wasting your time, because I hope he is what, I mean, I hope he's what, you think you know him pretty well. Perfect. Concert in Dallas that you've been wanting to go to. I love it. I love that. Yes, do that. See what he says, because you know what? You have a plan. It's a specific event. I know I just talked to someone in Germany, and she went to a concert in, I think it was Spain. She went to a concert in Spain. She went by herself because she really wanted to see whoever it was. And those of you in that corner of the world might know who was there. That would have been anyway, someone that she really was looking forward to seeing. And so she went there to this concert. And so that would be like the perfect scenario to like meet someone. It's a concert you want to go to. So I love this. I love that we've come to this for you, because this is going to be, see, here's the difference. This is not coming to see you with a whole lot of pressure and what I really wanted to get to was, you need to be able to see him in person, to meet up in person, so that you guys have a chance to just talk a little bit and get to know each other a little more. But it's going to have a different feel if it's, you saying, well, you got to come see me, or we got to meet because it's been a year. And if there isn't something to kind of center it around, it's just got a different feeling to it. I love concert in Dallas that you've been wanting to go to. Go with that, because that is, yeah, that's it. And if he says he can't go, what does he say? What does he offer? Pay attention to that. Does he offer an alternative? Whenever you suggest something, because I'm all for you suggesting something that you genuinely want to go see. You're not just making something up, but you actually genuinely want to do something. And this applies to like all different types of, anytime you want to make the initiative, right? So the thing to look for is, if he can't go for whatever reason, if the timing doesn't work, if with this new job he can't go at this, whatever that is, if he can't make it, look for, does he offer an alternative? That is everything. That tells you everything you need to know, because if no alternative is offered to you initiating something fun and light and easy, I mean, logistically, but I mean, at some point you guys have to get together, but so nothing's easy logistically about long distance, but it's something fun. This isn't a heavy thing. This isn't something for him to feel all this pressure. This isn't something for him to have a million and one excuses because he just literally wants to get out of pressure. The pressure that he feels, this is perfect. Okay. So does he offer an alternative to that? If you are talking about a concert in Dallas that's fun and you're suggesting it like that, and it's like a midway point, that sounds like the perfect thing. If it doesn't work because of the timing for him, let him suggest something else. Watch for that. But you have done everything right if you offer that, and whatever response you get. Okay. This makes so much sense. Okay. All right. And yeah, that's where I would go from there. All right. And hello from someone said something about sunny San Jose. Yeah, San Jose. Ironically, as you're talking about that, that's where I was in my long distance that flying into, was San Jose, of all places, from Southern California. So those were the days. And I had a friend say to me, what isn't he coming down there to see you, or what are your plans, what do you know? And I looked at her and like, oh, we're just having fun, I'm just going there because it makes more sense, because he's, no, I like going on adventures. I like flying to see him. I like, and the relationship at some point totally ended. Why? Because if I had, if I hadn't been excusing what was going on, that I loved the adventure, and so I'm always going up there and I'm having fun and doing that, and I enjoy going to see him. But if I had seen that there was actually something deeper there, bigger than that he was never coming to see me, he didn't want to come to see me. We were basically, he wasn't getting to know me in my life. It was all me trying to fit into someone else's life. I just wanted someone else to fit into their life, and they didn't need to come into mine. I mean, it's just the inequalities in there that I never understood until far later after the fact. But anyway, you've just, interesting that yeah, you were talking about San Jose on there as I'm talking about San Jose. So lots of memories, lots of memories there. Okay, Alex, good. I'm glad that helped. Okay. So Phoebe, no, I'm going to go to another one there. Okay, I'll come back to that one here. All right. Lolly, I'm going to get to you next so you can go back to bed, okay? Because it's 3 a.m. there, so I'm going to talk to you. Okay. Okay, Lolly says that Lolly says, I've realized, I want to know how to overcome the fear of starting a new relationship. I've realized that I have become uninterested in meeting new men, that even when they try to converse with me, I just become cold. And if they don't initiate conversation, I don't either, to a point whereby I delete their contacts after a few days of not hearing from them. My fear is that I'm turning 38 in a month's time. You're still young, Lolly. I know it doesn't always feel that way, though. I know. I don't want to end up alone. I do want a man to spend my life with, but my recent phobia scares me. Yeah, I understand that. Oh, and one more thing. I also found myself gravitating towards my exes who did not do me any good, but I somehow entertained conversations with them. I don't know if this is causing the issue of me not wanting to start anything new because I subconsciously hope that I can revive the old flames. Please help. I'm stuck. Oh, lolly. Yeah. So, two things. When you're feeling all of these, when you're feeling pressure, when you're feeling scared, when you're feeling like you're just getting older and the wheels are just turning and you're not getting any younger, it is going to be, and you haven't met anyone new, it is going to be so much easier for you to feel like you can just, to try to go back to the past, because at least then in the past, when you had these guys who were your exes, and I know they weren't good for you. I know most of your, or a lot of your exes, and they're not. You don't want to go back to them. So I want to clarify that. No going back to them because they haven't changed. And it's just what's changed here is that it feels like you're not finding anyone like you had hoped. It was supposed to happen quicker, right? Sooner. You're supposed to find someone by letting all them go, and it hasn't happened. And so you're scared. And so it will seem like being with them again is going to be easier. And yet it's not. It's not. Because the problem is that you know them and it's familiar, but it's a familiar kind of unhealthy, dysfunctional relationship, unequal relationship. Um, you and so going back to them, yeah, none of them have changed exactly. And the only thing that might have changed is the feeling that. Hang on, let me put my phone on vibrate. The only thing that might have changed is the fact that you are feeling like you could settle for them, or you maybe could lower your expectations so that they could be part of what is allowed in, and we're not allowing them in because nothing has changed. Nothing is going to be different, and no matter what you think you could try, it's not going to be any different than that. So that's the first thing. Don't go back to them. Don't go back to them. It's just the comfort. It's feeling comfortable. They provide a comfort to this phobia that you're saying that's scaring you. I don't think it's a phobia. I don't think it's there yet. I think it's a natural response, actually. So before you label yourself or judge yourself too much here, I really think it's a normal response to your expectation and your hope that things were going to be different by now. And you did not find that to be true. And so I think it's that when you meet someone, I think it's more, I think you've had so many starts that have started out so good and seem to have so much potential, and they've ended up having no potential, that I think this is a totally normal response that you're having to turn cold, because you've had this reinforced so many times that it's not going to be different for you with this new one, that nothing has changed because you've had hope every time. Yeah, definitely cut the contact with your exes. I would, because I'll tell you, the only thing that I have seen in all the women over the years that I have worked with, what I see happening is that they go back to an ex because they think he's changed, and nothing has changed. Nothing. The only thing that's changed is their tolerance for him, because they lost a lot of hope, and they've decided that the devil they know is better than the devil they don't know, right? I mean, but that's not true, because you know him, and you know the pattern and the types of, yeah, I have never seen anything good come from going back with someone who you ended things with in the first place because they were not healthy, or they didn't treat you well, or there was an imbalance of power. So all of the reasons why you ended something in the first place, and especially, Lolly, the ones where you and I talked through all of those men, I can tell you there is not one of the guys that we talked through and dismissed that I would recommend you maintaining any kind of contact with. Not any of them. So unless this is someone like from way, way, way back when that we did not discuss, but I think we discussed most of them. So I can tell you personally, I mean, I make a general statement for everyone that that you don't go back to the ones who broke your heart, who you know emotionally abused you or in any other way were abusive. You don't go back to men who caused you to lose your self-esteem. You don't go back to men who you felt inferior with, and where you felt like they held the power, and who you felt powerless with, in the hopes that you're going to make it different this time. No, the only thing that is you're more comfortable because you've gotten to know them better. And and you're also feeling that you missed out, or you haven't found what you were looking for after, so they start to look better. But in terms of them, have they gotten better? No. So I would definitely cut contact altogether. I would tell yourself, no, I'm okay here, because it's not there isn't anything wrong with you. You don't have a phobia. Okay, it's a natural learned response to um, repeating the same thing over and over again, finding the same patterns with your relationships with the same type of men all over. But I will tell you this: if you look at all the different men, they have so much in common. And the reason why this is not about you being that there's something wrong with you and you're the common denominator that we usually come to, this is because you are picking all the same types of men. You're picking the wrong men here. And it is because the thing that's attracting you to them is because they come on strong. They act like they are going to take care of you. They act like they are going to be the be all and end all for you, that they are just going to, you can come fit into their world, and they're going to fix it all. Or they're the opposite of that, where you're thinking you can save them and you can fix them because they've got some fatal flaw that you need to rescue them from. You're not going to do that either. They need to do the work. If they can't do the work with themselves, they're never going to be able to do the work that a relationship entails being with you. And that's not because something is bad if it takes work. All relationships take effort, so change work for effort. So it's because you are finding all of the types of men that you are drawn to are like that. And so you have to, I know we talked last time about that, is changing who you're attracted to. You can be attracted to someone and you can acknowledge, I'm attracted to this type. This is my type that I'm attracted to. But you can choose to do something different about that, because you can recognize that that type keeps leading you astray. That type keeps disappointing you. There isn't anything wrong with you. This is not further evidence or proof that there is something wrong with you. What this is it's a clear signal that the types of men with that power dynamic that you're attracted to, that is something that you keep attracting over and over again, and you need to do something different and meet a different type of guy. And dating for friendship, I think we talked about this when I talked to you last, but dating for friendship, dating for someone who you can actually enjoy talking to and spending time with, and going out with, and living just life without there being like someone who is like a decent human being, but who's fun and who's funny and who makes you laugh, and who's just a good guy. That's what we're going for here. And that is like this all around good person, not someone who, there's this incredible excitement and this incredible chemistry, and that's all there is. And it's going to just that will run its course, and then you're going to be left with some guy who's thinks he's God's gift to women, or is like acts like a jerk, or treats you like he can take or leave you, and doesn't treat you well. I mean, that is not what you're looking for. So a big part of it is just recognizing, yeah, you're going to be pulled in that direction to a certain type of guy, but you get to choose whether or not you go further with that guy, and you get to choose whether or not you do that. So really, I would don't think of these as starting a new relationship. Don't think of dating as starting a new relationship, and what will it entail, and will it be just like the ones I've always had? Will this guy who seems like he's too good to be true, or seems amazing, will this be that? I take all that out of it. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of stuff going on there. I would take all of that out of this, and I would instead look at it as, is this someone who I want to be with? Is this someone who I could be a friend with? Could I count on this person to be there for me? Could you see the difference, right? It's not all about this intense chemistry. Can I get him? Can I win him over? Can I get him to fall for me? Can I get him to give up his player ways that he seems to, be drawn to, or that there seems to be evidence of? Can I not make this my own conquest, but can I just meet a guy who is just fun to be with and just someone who I can just um, like a companion or a friend. I'm using words other than dating because I think the dating thing is what messes you up, because when you think dating, it's pressure. It's, I haven't dated well. I date all the wrong guy, right? There's so many scripts that are written in there. So instead, just just think of meeting someone as just starting a friendship with someone to see, is this someone whose character, whose qualities he has, is this someone worthy of my time, my energy, of me? And if that, and that's the focus. So shift the focus from I'm looking for a boyfriend to I'm looking for you could call it a life partner if that's easier, if friendship doesn't do it. But really, you want everything to start from a friendship place. So the whole idea, I think we cringe when we think friend, um, because I know I'm trying to like find another word for it, because when we hear friendship or when we hear friend, there can be this idea that it implies that this person is going to be boring and not interesting and no spark and no chemistry, and I'm going to have to be settling for him and all this stuff. I don't want to convey that. None of that is true. No friendship type connotation that leads to that stereotype. So if you can think of it as I want to meet someone who is like my equal, like maybe think of it that way. Like I want to I'm looking to meet someone. All that I'm doing, I'm not dating. I'm just seeing if there is someone who is going to be my equal, my partner. Is that person out there? And let's see what we can find if we're looking for someone like that, instead of calling it dating, which conjures up a whole bunch of images and ideas of that. Okay. All right. So I hope that makes sense. Hope that helps, Lolly. But I think that's what you were. Yeah, I really think it's just that. It's the pressure you put on yourself. Okay. And now you can get some sleep. You can go back to sleep because it's early over there. So anyway, I'm glad you stayed up to hear that. Okay. Okay, the next one I've got here is from Tracy. Okay, Tracy. Tracy, are you here? You're welcome, Lolly. Tracy wrote, my boyfriend made arrangements to have his ex-wife house sit and take care of his dogs while we were on vacation. Okay, so you and your boyfriend went on vacation. His ex-wife is house sitting and taking care of his dogs. Okay, well, that sounds not too bad. Sounds pretty reasonable, but we'll find out. Upon our plans to return back, I found out that she would still be there on Wednesday when he returned home. I don't live with my boyfriend. This situation of playing house alone together did not sit well with me. Okay, so he's going to come home and she will not have left. So there's going to be an overlap now where they're not just exchanging keys, checking, getting an update on the dogs, but she's going to be there, and playing house alone together did not sit well with me. So he made arrangements to stay with a friend until she flew home on Saturday. Okay. On Saturday, when he returned home, he told me that she had left. All right. My gut instincts told me something was not right, and I asked him exactly when did she leave. He confessed that she left the following day, Sunday. He said they spent Saturday night talking stories and catching up. Okay, so at least he was honest with you. I do like that he's honest with you. Okay, we'll give him some points for that. He could have lied about the whole thing, unless he knew for sure you were going to find out. Okay, but he said they spent Saturday night talking stories and catching up. He says it's not cheating because they did not sleep together. I say it is because he lied to me. Oh, I see, because he originally, okay, so he told you the truth after, but you're saying he told you after that she left on Sunday instead of Saturday. All right. So he told you she left on Saturday. And then he told you she left on Saturday, you pressed him and he said Sunday. All right. So negative points. He lied to you in the beginning. Little better points because he was truthful when he was confronted, but only because he got caught. So, yeah. Okay. Let's find out more. To top it off, his ex-wife was sleeping in his bedroom and on our bed the whole time we were on vacation. Was there a spare room? Yeah, there is a guest bedroom. I refuse to share the bed with his ex-wife, so I am now sleeping in the guest bedroom. Your thoughts? We're going to couples therapy at his suggestion. Okay, I'm glad he suggested couples therapy because you need to, yeah. Um, do you think it's worth to even try when I do not feel he's sorry for his actions and continue to want her as his friend? You know, it is a tough one. I'm glad you brought it up. I do like, so there's a few things I do like. I like that he's going to couples therapy, or that he suggested that you guys are going to go and talk about this. I would not write him off. I'll tell you why. So when my husband and I were engaged, there was a woman from work. He doesn't know I'm going to tell you this. He probably doesn't even remember that I remember, but I remember this. But there was this woman that he worked with, okay, and she was single, and I remember seeing so many red flags and with how she, like, I was like, there is no doubt the way she talks to you, the way that she is with you, like she so clearly like likes you. Like, even though we're engaged now and you're no longer even single, I just saw that so clearly. And I remember him, and of course he had told me that he didn't, there was nothing there, and he never even, expressed any interest ever. Like, even when he was like, he didn't flirt back with her, and basically what I knew, because I'm a woman, and so this is why our gut instincts are often right, is because we identify more with these women because we understand as women, and men don't. So I'll tell you, Tracy, a lot of times men do not understand this. They think that they are just communicate just going about their lives, just they don't think there's anything there. They don't they're naive. I mean, you can say they're ignorant, they're whatever, right? And they don't have any ill intentions. I don't think I That's why I say I do think it's worth it to try, because of a number of points here. But and not the least of which, I mean, the fact that he's suggesting that you're going to couples therapy. I mean, to have a guy who suggests that you go to couples therapy, I mean, how many of you on here can say that if you would love it if your guy suggested that you go to therapy when you have a disagreement over something, or when you have an issue, right? I mean, yeah, I think all of us, to have a guy who's actually initiating that yeah, let's go to therapy conversation. I mean, that's huge. So I like where his heart is here, because he wants to work on this. And that's good. That's good. And I really think the even bigger thing, I think he got blindsided with this. And I think his lying about this in the initial first place, to tell you that she left on Saturday, and he said she left. I really think that is him sensing that you might make more of a big deal of it, and him being scared, him feeling afraid that that he was going to get in trouble, or that that you were going to misread the situation or read more into it than there actually is, and him just not wanting to have to deal with that conflict, or that. So I mean, that's so I know a lot about men now, having lived with one now too for a long time. um, and seeing his friends, and then seeing these similarities in the men that you all introduced me to through your boyfriends, and your exes, and everyone that you tell me about. But men are very, very simple. Now there's some conniving ones. They're some players who learn how to manipulate and how to do stuff. I'm not talking about those. Those are not as many as you think they are. It may seem like they're just disproportionately more of those. There's not as many of those. Most of the ones that you're talking to me about are your regular, imperfect, run-of-the-mill guys who there's things they do that make you upset, or make you feel like they're the bad guys. But a lot of times it's more of a simple-minded thing, where they just are focused on in the moment. And in the moment, often they're not wanting conflict. They don't want things to be difficult. They don't want to they don't want to to make something that is nothing to them They don't want you to make that into something more when it isn't anything more. Maybe it was just an error in judgment. So, I definitely think that this is a case of that, where he thought it made the most sense, um, to have his ex-wife there, and she, it sounds like, maybe she was, this sounds like it was driven by her, that she wanted to stay a little longer, that they caught up. I mean, the fact that he is, once he realizes there is no avoiding conflict here, right? Like, once he realizes you're onto something, you're telling him, you're sensing that something isn't right here, and you're asking him exactly when did she leave. He's not lying to you, and that's really important. He didn't lie to you there. He tells you the truth there, and then he actually goes into detail, saying that they spent the night talking stories and catching up. So I don't know. He's not hiding. I mean, I do think that that's all they did, and that was what they did. Um, and so I would not call it cheating. I would say that he made an error in judgment. He should have been totally honest with you, but at the same time, he couldn't have, because you would have been really upset, which would have been understandable. What he should have done is told her that he should have said essentially that he wanted her to leave. Um, on Saturday, like planned. He should have been stronger on that. But I also know that a lot of good men are not always as strong as they need to be, with exes who are pushy, with exes who have other agendas, but at the same time, if he can stand up to her the majority of time with boundaries, if this is not an ongoing problem in your relationship, then I really would go to the counseling with him and talk about this in counseling. I would bring this up specifically because he's going to be there. So you can say, I mean, this is what I love. I actually do coaching with couples too, because I find it really helpful to have the guy, if he's willing to talk, and usually he's like totally surprised that I'm not a man hater, because he's expecting someone who's not going to understand his point of view, but I really understand his point of view. And so, interestingly enough, the majority of men, in fact every man I've ever talked to at the request of the woman I've been coaching, he's just been really surprised, and he's found an ally in me, because I understand him, and I understand you, but I also know, we can't have anyone settling here, and we can't have anyone, pretending that things are working when they're not. But usually it's a matter of communication, and usually it's a matter of understanding the simplicity of men's thinking. So I do not believe, from what you've said and from my experience with men who sound like him, and with all the things that are adding up here, the points here, because this is awesome, you've given me the detail of it. But I do not think that he cheated on you. I do not think that he is in the category of men who cheated, or who would be in that category. I do not from this, unless you miss something, out here, and I'm missing something. But he sounds like the guy who, like my husband, when we were engaged, where it was just, she was the one who was coming on to him. She would call it subtly, but I could see through it. But he didn't, because he thought it was just, she was being who she is, right? Because she's friendly and she's nice, but he was not at all interested in her. And so this is what I see. I don't think your boyfriend, is interested in rekindling something with his ex-wife. I don't at all. I'm not taking that in here. And again, I could be wrong if you've missed something out here. But I think if there is something you're missing, you're going to find that out in the counseling, because both of you will be together. You're going to have a chance to say what it is you're afraid of, your fear, because your fear is that he could be manipulated by her, right? Your fear is that she can manipulate him. And so that's what you can say out loud, and you can talk to him about it, with her there, or whoever your counselor is. And that is going to make it easier, because you're going to take this elephant in the room and you're going to talk about it. You're going to get it out in the open. Again, my take on this literally is, that he's a good guy who he doesn't want conflict, which is 99% of men, okay? And he wants the simplest, easiest way out. He wants her to be able to house sit and take care of the dogs, right? So he's got his dogs. I have dogs. I know, I mean, you can hire a sitter, but it's really nice to have somebody who knows them. But if that's too much, like if this is too much contact, you need to tell him that too, because it's also completely reasonable for you to tell him that this is too much for you, that your imagination just goes running wild with this because I mean, there is something to the fact that he felt like he needed to lie to you in the first place because he's and the fact that she stayed over, like, did she manipulate that? Because I mean, that is a real concern, that she is not with him. I do not believe that he would be, susceptible to her wiles, that he could cheat on you. It's not that, but if you are concerned that she could manipulate him, and so it feels like you've got a three-way relationship here, and she's still in that relationship that you guys now have, that she's supposed to be out of, then I mean, that would be a valid enough concern for him to cut more ties with her. Because if they don't have kids together, if it's just dogs, and maybe they share custody of dogs, I'm not sure how that goes, but it's reasonable for you to say, I'm not going to be comfortable with her house sitting unless you guys have made arrangements that she leaves before you get there, so that when you guys get back, it's just the two of you. You can go into his house, you can relax together in his house, you can just feel like it's the two of you. So if that is what's happening, and you're feeling it, you have every right to say that is what you need to feel comfortable. You have every right to say that, because you need to communicate that so that he can then know how you feel and where your boundaries, where you want your boundaries to be, where you want, and essentially then his boundaries to be with his ex-wife. Okay. But yeah, there's no reason, because that is the other thing. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. Again, I don't know her in depth here and more details of that, and how things ended or whatever happened with that. But the fact that his ex-wife is sleeping in his bedroom, right? I mean, that's where you guys are going to be sleeping. I understand that. And that would have a feel to it. She should have been in the guest bedroom if she was sensitive to you. It doesn't sound, I mean, if she's sensitive to understanding about, moving on, and what that feels like, and putting yourself in your shoes, it sounds like this is all coming from her, and he's just trying to not rock the boat. That's what it honestly sounds like from my experience and the detail you've given me. That is what it sounds like to me. So I would take those issues to the couples therapy that he suggested, and again, points for him for that. And I would just say how you feel, not an accusatory way of him. I wouldn't throw in there, I understand why you did it, but I wouldn't throw in there, that whether you feel it's not cheating, or that it is cheating and he says it's not. I would just talk about how it affected you, okay? How it hurt you, how it made you feel, how you are now sleeping in the guest bedroom because you feel basically that, I mean, she slept where you guys sleep. I mean, it just, yeah, they're just, I think it's her. And I think that's probably why he's with you, is because you're not like her. And I think he's really, really glad that you're not like her. So let the rest of this be resolved where you guys can talk it out, and where you have a third party there to be able to talk about this with. Okay. But yeah, I hope that helps, Tracy. I'm glad you brought that up. Are you here, by the way? I'm not sure if you're here, what time zone you're in. That's okay. If not, you'll get it on the replay, but I hope that helps you. All right. Okay. And then talking about, that, there's another question that I had that was, okay. Here we go. This one was, okay. This one was this one about? Okay, here, I'm going to read this one from Christine. Christine, are you here today? Okay, Christine. Christine writes to me, "Hi, Jane. I have your mini program. Good. I'm glad. I think I told everyone last time, that's my beautiful, confident, radiant you, the weekly love steps. I have had so many different women write to me about that, just that little program. It's a really inexpensive way to do like the big program, but in bite-sized pieces where once a week you get the exercises and the emails and all that, um, the workbook pieces, and that has completely made such a difference. I've been shocked at how many women I've heard from who've actually met um, their person just from that. So anyway, I'm really glad you're enjoying those and you're doing that. Okay. My question is, I have a guy I've been texting for the last 2 years. Okay. So you guys have been texting for 2 years. You met him through work that you do in the fall. We aren't exclusive. Okay. So you are not exclusive. So you've just been texting for 2 years. You've hung out a few times. You've had sex. Okay. I live close to him in the fall and winter, but in the summer and spring, I live 7 hours away. Okay, so you're doing some seasonal work and you end up seeing him. He would text and then he would disappear and come back again. 2 months ago, I found out that when he had a woman that lives 6 hours away visit him. Okay, so 2 months ago, I found out he had a woman that lives 6 hours away visit him. Okay, I was upset about this and I didn't realize how much I was, but it was only for having this. But he was supposed to fix some equipment for me and teach me and never did as the woman was there. Okay, so when I set up a time so he could teach me, he texted and he put it off for another 3 hours. And then later he told me it had to be quick as he had to work the next day. I went then and the woman had left that morning. Okay, so he's kind of just putting you off and not telling you the truth. And so the woman had left and you found out. So I grabbed my stuff and I left. He then texted me and said he was sorry, etc. 2 weeks later, he texted me again and he said he wasn't talking to that lady anymore as it wasn't practical. She lives 6 hours away and that he couldn't visit her as she is in a different state. We started to talk again and he called me, something he doesn't like doing. And I asked him for coffee or for him to take me fishing, and he started to make reasons not to, as per his normal. So he has a history of making excuses not to do things with you, not to, to do normal things that couples do or people would do as they're getting to know each other and they enjoy being with each other. I then texted him and said, see text below. Okay, so you included a text there for me to see. Now I'm upset and I don't know what to do. I'm keeping my ground, but it still hurts. I did ask if he had another appointment, but I hadn't received anything from him. Okay, so he's supposed to be teaching you something. And then she went on, Christine sent me texts. So she had sent him a text that said, so I've been thinking the way I see it is you just wanting me as just a sexting person. You have the people you actually want. And apparently I don't fit that bill. Maybe making it easier on the both of us and we'll just step out of it. Okay. I'm not mad. I'm just sad. And he said, okay to that. Wow. So that's really telling when a guy, so you're saying you have emotional, you're expressing your emotions, you're expressing feelings. The guy says, okay, your guy says, okay. And that's far more, that's not uncommon. So he doesn't know what to say. He doesn't have an answer for you. You're basically telling him what you've been thinking. He is not disagreeing with you is the point I want you to see. He's not disagreeing with you. And you just said you're going to step out of it. You made your decision. I'm not mad. I'm just sad. When you say that, when you express your feelings to someone and they come back and they say, okay, just know that everything you said is correct. Everything that you are thinking is true. Every conclusion that you're coming to, the way you see it, he's agreeing with you. So what that means is you have a decision to make. You're right. You're right. He is not refuting anything you've said. He's agreeing with you. So he's not going to fix this for you. You have given him something to fix. A man wants to fix things. He wants you to feel better. He wants everything to be better. He's not fixing it. So what this is telling you is the decision lies with you. You have to make a decision here. If you're right and he's agreeing with you. The way I see it, you've been wanting me just as a sex texting person. Okay, sex and texting. Read that wrong. You have the people you actually want, and apparently I don't fit that bill. So I'll just step out of it to make it easier. So you've said all this. He's saying, okay. He's not giving you any emotion back. He's not saying anything more. So what this tells you is you have a decision to make. Either you keep allowing for this sex texting relationship, and that's, you're making a choice that you're okay with it, or else you're not going to allow that, and you're going to step out of this relationship like you said, and essentially it's over. Or you come to terms of what, what can you live with here? Do you want a friendship with a guy like this? I mean, would you rather he be, and I'm not judging that, I'm saying literally, would you rather have something of him in your life in order to have something here? Or is it that, is there, so is it worth, the cost of this is going to be that, you basically allow him to, you have a friendship, you keep a friendship so that there's something, so that you can have some contact with him, but you don't get what you actually want, which is more than that. So does the price you pay, is it worth it to have him in your life at all? So that's something only you can answer, but it's pretty clear from that's the case. um, and then the fact that, you went on here to say how obviously then after that you said, can you let me know, it sounds like you texted him to ask him, can you let me know what the doctor says when you find out? I know what I texted before, but I do care about you. I just don't want to only be your sex thing. So if you could let me know, that would be good. Thanks. And then he wrote back, okay, will do. And then you said, thank you. So you're showing him that you actually do care. He's obviously got some test results or something you're waiting to hear from the doctor. And so you want him to know you care. So again, coming back with no emotion, nothing more than, okay, will do. I mean, this is who he is. This is where he's at. This is all he is capable of. That's it. There is nothing more that he can give you. He literally can give you, he's going to let you know something, an event that happens in his life that's so, he's going to let you know what the test results are, what his doctor says. That's it. There's nothing there beyond that. There's no relationship here. This is, so he's clarified that for you. And yeah, so 100%, figuring out what it is within yourself that allows you to, or that causes you to settle for a relationship like this, to settle for sex and texting. That would be like what I would look at, right? Like, why is this acceptable? This has been for the past 2 years. This guy is someone who, after 2 years, basically you're opting out. You're telling him, I can't keep doing this. So I'm going to make this easier on both of us and opt out here. And just, yeah, step out of this. And, his response is, okay. It doesn't surprise me because, clearly he was never capable of more, but it's the fact that you've wasted 2 years on your life with him. That's really hard. So, I just look at this as, you're not going to do that again. You're not going to waste that much of your time with a guy who can end it with, the last words from him are, okay. It's the same as you do what you got to do for you. I mean, I heard those, and I think those have come up before in my conversation. It's like, that's why we don't say something, because we know he's going to come back with, you do you got to do what you got to do, absolving himself of any responsibility. That is not that, there's something wrong with you, that it's not that I'm not, you're not worth it. That is not any of those things. If a guy comes back with, you do you got to do what you got to do. If a guy comes back with that, that's on him, that that's all he's capable of. That is who you've got. So the only thing left, the only thing that needs to be done with something like that, in a situation, in a relationship like that, is for you to decide, what do I want to do with that? If this is how a relationship can end with that, what does that tell me? What do I want to do with that? Okay. So, yeah, I think that's pretty clear. Okay. The next one here I've got is, from Lisa. And Lisa wrote to me and said, "Hi, Jane. I enjoyed the first round of audios. Thanks. I have a question. My boyfriend and I have been going together for about 14 months, so a little over a year. As I listened to the audio today and it talked about all the things that guys do that we should not put up with, it reminded me full force that my boyfriend does not do any of them, fortunately." Okay, that's good. That's a good start. "We go out once a week, email 3 times a day. He teaches all day long, then he needs time in the evening to grade papers. And he doesn't like to talk on the phone that much since he literally talks all day. So I've accepted this, although email is not a substitute for personal conversation. He takes me out once a week. He pays all the time. I treat him by cooking, treating him to concert tickets, etc. He used to tell me so many sweet words. It's only Monday and I can't wait to see you in the beginning. But the sweet words have mostly gone by the wayside." Okay. "We typically walk arm in arm when we go out as I put my arm in his. He is courteous, on time, talks a lot when we go out, and also asks me out for the next week before we finish the current date, which charms me to no end." I like that. "But lately, he's not as attentive. I hear less and less sweet words, and a couple weeks ago, he walked separate from me, and it felt like I was out on a date with a friend." Okay, so you notice some kind of a shift here. "We did not have any kisses, hugging, sex, or anything intimate because he said he had a ton of papers to grade. I have no issue with him having to take care of schoolwork because his job is a high priority, and I work at home. Oh, wait. I know other teachers, and they all say the same thing. They work at home a lot grading papers, lesson planning. Right. The only thing is that the following week, he had me take his arm, was more affectionate, and we had sex. So I'm getting mixed messages. I don't know what to make of them. Last week was a normal arm in arm, affectionate date. Sometimes I wonder if he's going to be distant one week and attentive the next, and which person will show up. I'm getting mixed messages from him, and I can't figure out why. What is the best way to handle this? I don't want to sound demanding, create discord when there is none, where there's none, but I just don't know what to make of it." Okay. So, yeah. And so it sounds to me like it's been 14 months. So it sounds like this is, again, he's very similar to the one I just talked to, where they were on vacation and they came back and his ex's dog sitting in that. I think you get both. And I think you get both because some days he's focused on grading papers and all that. And some days, in his job and everything else, and he takes it seriously. He's probably a really good teacher and all that. And then other days, he's in the moment. Other times when he's doesn't have a lot on his mind, he's there and he's he's all there with you and everything's good and everything like that. So, the best way to handle this is just to accept that. I mean, I think you did talk about that. You accepted something in there. You've accepted the fact, I forget where it was, but there was something where you said, "Oh, he's not a big talk on the phone guy." You said you accepted that. So, yeah, men are an interesting breed because they are often like either they're in the moment and they're either really focused on something and all in focused on that and you feel kind of forgotten, or you feel like there's more here where they're totally focused on you and it feels really good. And when you don't have that, there's all kinds of issues. So, I want to tell you this because this was a really big learning experience for me. I think that the way that you should handle this is I do think you should accept him and not take, skip the accept him piece because you've already done that and you know how to do that. I would not take this personally. I would take this out of it where you feel that this is personal. Because if you don't feel this is personal, if you don't take it on yourself to mean that there's something wrong with you, you're going to feel a lot better and you're going to have a natural reaction that reflects your actual handling of it, like how you want to handle it. Because I can say, I think you should accept him. I can say, I think he's a good guy who just gets focused in the moment. And, and when he's focused in the moment, he's doing he's focused on whatever he's doing. Men have the ability. I mean, I don't like to generalize, but generally speaking, most of the men that I'm talking to and seeing and know of in my life, and then the men that you introduced me to, they can focus really well on one thing at a time, and they don't multitask well. And when they're really focused, they're so focused they can ignore other things. and this stuff has driven me nuts with my husband. It took me like a long time to figure this out. And um because I like pride myself on being able to multitask and see what the kids are doing, the dogs are doing, and what's going on in the stove and everything else all at the same time, right? And it's like, but part of this is like, this is what we as women in our culture have been taught to do. I mean, we multitask, and we've been taught we have to. You have to be able to be a good mom, and you have to be able to be, I mean, all the different things, right? Like, you have to be able to handle everything and still have time to nurture the world and accommodate everybody, and read situations, and change your tactics, and you know please everybody. And I mean, there's just so many messages to do with that. And so I think a big part of this is just you taking a step back, recognizing that you don't have to take this personally. And there's nothing here where he doesn't sound like a bad guy. There's nothing here where there's any red flags on this either. I'm not seeing that. So what I would say to you, Lisa, is if this is not about you, if he's not doing any of this intentionally, then I think this will help you to decide how you want to respond. Like, if there's nothing wrong with you, if this is not intentional, then how do you want to deal with it? How do you want to respond? Do you come to a place where this is everything you do get from him that's good is enough? That if you sometimes get where he's really focused and where he isn't, can you not pay attention to such? Can you not use so many details like the I know, I totally get, like, there's something here where holding your arm as you're walking together, it feels so good. And I think there's probably like lots of like conditioning, and lots of things we've been taught, scripts, stories, right, that play out in our mind, that says, like, if a guy really likes you, if you're really special and important to someone, he's like taking your arm, you in certain way, or whatever that is. What jumps out at me from that is these are a whole bunch of stories that are all like real stories. I'm not minimizing them at all, but I'm just saying these are your scripts, that when a guy does this, it means this. And most of us have so much of this. When a guy does this, it means this. When a guy doesn't do this, it means this. Watch out for this. I mean, there's so much of that plays out in our minds. It makes it really, really hard to just take this guy at face value and just accept that this has nothing to do with us. And it's just, he's just like, to just let him be who he is. And so when I met my husband, who I was just dating at the time, who turned out to be a really good guy, from literally all the rest were not like him before that. And so I was not used to something that I paid attention to, like essentially an equivalent of what you're talking about with the way he took your arm, like the stuff that are your scripts. I had those too. And so for me, when I saw any of those, I would get scared, and I would get anxious, and I would think, oh no, here we go again, and thinking that I messed up, that he was just like the rest. And someone who I looked up to, the advice that she had given me was, Jane, can you just let him be himself? Can you just, everything is not about you. He's not thinking about you. Because I was always thinking about him all the time, right? Like, our programming is think about, like pay attention to every little thing. Make sure that you can read the cues. Like, that is so much of our programming. Our scripts say that if a guy is not doing something that we have been told he should be doing, we're going to read that to mean something, and it's going to mean that to us, and it's going to be that significant. And so we have to pay attention to like every single detail, because it's like significant enough to mean something. So this is not what he's doing. And so this was really good advice that I got, was just, can you just let him be himself? Can you just not be like reading everything into every little thing, just because that had been my whole thing, to be so hyper vigilant, and to be so, always immersed in what is he doing? What does it mean? Does it, and trying to look for the cues. Because when you've been hurt as many times as we have been, because that was my whole thing. I'd never had anything, before him where I wasn't hurt. So I was so used to always trying to read the cues and to figure it out, to be one step ahead of it, so I could protect myself before it ended again and everything was awful, miserable. So, this, and so the example I was going to say, Lisa, is literally how when my husband and I, well, so we were just dating and we went on a dive boat. He's a scuba diver, and so we went on a dive boat near Catalina Island in Southern California, and on the boat. So afterwards, when we're leaving the boat, everyone's packing up, right, getting their stuff, and so he was packing up. We'd only been out on a few dates before that. And so he's packing up and he's totally not paying attention to me. He's like, we're getting ready to get off. He's gathering up all his dive gear. He's getting all stuff together. And he's ignoring me basically. Like he was not talking to me. He just went silent. And we're walking off the boat and he's not saying anything. And I was literally like noticing every little thing. He's not holding my hand like he did on the way down. He's not he's not even talking to me. And when I talked to him and tried to make some small talk about, he didn't respond to me. Or he just like, he sounded like it was just, like okay, like it sounded like a distant type thing, right? Like he wasn't like right there. And so I'm reading all of this into that, and I'm interpreting it as, oh my God, I've done it again. He is going to, this is it. He's going to tell, he's distancing, and he's going to, I'm, whether he lets me down easily or just, he's going to, everything's changed now. And I'm blaming myself because, whatever I did too soon, we were, I was two, whatever, right? And I'm looking at all that. So yeah, you get my point. And this is the guy that I married. You know what happened? You know what I found out? So this is it, right? Like my husband's an engineer and he's very, but he's also like the quintessential guy, right? I mean, the guy's guy. So he is just so able to focus on one thing at a time really, really well. What he was focusing on, did he have all his stuff? Did he have everything together? Did he do what he needed to do with the tanks? And then we had, and he's also, and then there's a newness of the relationship. And he's thinking, well, he's hungry. He knows we're going to be hungry. Should we stop on the way to get something to eat? Should we go home first? There were so many details like that. I didn't understand any of this. I'm not a scuba diver. I didn't understand about equipment. I think he had borrowed some friend's equipment who was diving on another dive. And so I think he had to bring the tanks back, or anyway, there were so many details in there that I knew nothing about. And here I was making it about me, thinking that, taking it personally, that there was something about me. And well, the rest of the story, we've been married a long time. So, everything was fine, but I was treating that like I did with everything, where there's something wrong and I'm looking for the cues and I'm waiting to see the indicator that I've done it again. And this is it again. So, so how you handle it, the very first thing to do is to not take all of these little details that you're observing so personally. Take a step back, allow him to be, again, I go back to just the simple guy who can focus on one thing at a time, who really, prides himself on doing his job well. So he's probably a really good teacher and all that. And just decide, can you make this work for you? Does what he have to offer you, does that outweigh this stuff? Because this is real too. And so this is important too, for you to know, can I handle this? Or is this going to be the death of me because I can't do this. I can't be with a guy who shows up, so affectionate sometimes and then so focused on his other things other times. Can I handle that? That's a real question for you to ask. So, yeah. And so if he's amazing overall, then, that tells you something. So the question would be like, can you live with that? Is this something that you're feeling? You've got some scripts playing out, or some shoulds is another way of looking at it, right? Like, or are those shoulds something that have been put on you based on what you've been taught about love and about relationships, and the shoulds about how you guys should, the things that make you feel so good, right? The things where you're talking with him, when you're walking with him, I have a feeling that is something that you just, have been told. I mean, it can be as simple as when I'm walking down a street. I remember this. I'd be walking down a street with a guy, and if he was walking on the other side of me, so that I was not next to the street, right? So if a guy was walking next to me and he was next to the street, he was putting himself between me and the street. I was filled with like such warm feelings of, this guy really loves me. This guy really cares about me. This is a real gentleman. And what I trace that to is my dad always walked there and made a point of walking around and basically taught me, right? So taught me in some really strong script that a man who really cares about, like a real gentleman, will always walk there. And so will always be between you and the street, right? Because it was a very gentlemanly, old-fashioned way of doing things. And so, I mean, it's common, I mean, it's nice and all that, but it's just that stood out for me. So that, yeah, I mean, it's always nice to have that done, but I elevated something like that, and I interpreted that to mean so much more, because in my mind, that goes to this feeling of being with my dad, being treated like, you know, just a woman, right? A lady, and just all the warm, fuzzy feelings that went along with that. When I would walk with a guy, that would just, you know, that was a highlight. So it sounds like that might be something that's going on for you as well in there too. Okay. And yeah, you're absolutely right, Lisa. So much of this is how we interpret things. And yes, and honestly, this is the key to almost everything. We have an interpretation of it. We come to a guy with all these interpretations of our things that are mostly subconscious. We usually can't even say why we're upset about something, or why something's bothering us, or why something's upsetting us. But it's the illusions we've created in our heads. It's a script that we have playing out. It's subconscious. The majority of all of this is subconscious. You don't even know why something, like I can even tell you that why I felt that warm, fuzzy feeling, you know, walking like that way with a guy, unless I had taken a chance to do some introspection and figure that out in retrospect of why this was, why was that, right? Like, why did I have such a you know, more of a visceral response than I normally would have? And it was because it had these warm, fuzzy feelings of having my dad make me feel like taken care of. So that's what was going on there. And it's the same thing. So good. I'm glad you're able to interpret that. Okay. Well, I really hope that helps, because again, I think you and the other, I think a lot of times, yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about, you know, narcissist type guys, player type guys, you know, and all that, but there's a lot of like good guys who are just simpler in their thinking, who just don't have the, you know, they're just, we're missing understanding each other. We're talking in different languages, or we're just making it about ourselves. And it just is, it makes it really hard to do relationships. And especially because it's so easy to just, you know, find your group of women who, when you say one thing about how he's treating you, it's so easy to have everyone go rah, 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 you know, behind you. And yeah, you know, dump him, or he's, you know, let him go, or whatever, you know. And I guess that's it, right? It's there's more to it than that. There doesn't need to be this black and white thinking with these men. It can be that some of them are just really simple men who are, you know, normal men. And I can tell you, literally, with being almost, you know, it's been almost 20 years since my husband and I have been married. And it's just, yeah, shocking to me that just seeing the simplicity of men, and just being around like other men who are, you know, happily married, other people, couples, like, so just being around a lot of men who've got a lot of longevity here in relationships, and just seeing that the simplicity of men, it really is a common theme that we don't understand. And too often we think that, you know, we just read more into it. And so it's not all men are the players or the narcissists, or, you know, some of these negative things we think of. There can be some just simple men who are just really, you know, focused in the moment, and don't do what we do with the analyzing and figuring all this out, and playing things out in our head and taking things personally. They are a lot simpler than that. I think even just taking that out of it, do not take any of this personally. I think that also change. Then we also don't have a hurt reaction. So everything's better, because communication is better if we're not coming from this place where we feel hurt, or slighted, or that there's, that there's been something intentional done to us. If you can look at it as, how would you respond to a guy who's just clueless? How would you respond to a guy who's simple? How would you respond to a guy who just isn't paying attention to the same things that you are? And it's not because there's a right or wrong thing. It's just there's a program thing, and we may be programmed and to think one way, and they're not. So I just think our response then, it would be much easier to talk to them and actually communicate if we didn't feel so hurt. And so part of it is in not taking it personally. You can remove that hurt feeling, so you can actually communicate in a way that will get what you need, that will get your needs met, that will achieve what you actually want to achieve, and will help you in the long run to get what you want. If you can just talk directly to this guy as someone who's just super focused, or just someone who's clueless about what you've got playing out in your mind. And it's no one's fault. It's just a matter of being raised in a culture that treats men traditionally different than women, and the way that we have been brought up, and men, especially the older we are, the more that plays out. So anyway, okay. Well, I'm going to move on to the next one here, because wow, I could talk about this for a long time. Okay. Let's talk to Alice. Alice, I'm answering yours. Okay. Alice says, "Dear Jane, thank you for offering this. I'd love to ask a question. I tend to fixate on what a man is not offering rather than appreciating what he does offer. An example that happened to me was if he says, I'm a serial monogamist, meaning he's faithful to me, then I worry that he views our relationship as just another one in a string of relationships that are temporary. How do I handle this so I can have less anxiety?" Okay. So, Alice, what I would say about this, so it sounds like you've had relationships in the past where you've been disappointed, where you've been let down, and they haven't turned out the way you wanted. So you've been disappointed, and you've probably. So I think it's a you're trying to protect yourself, which is totally understandable. And again, it's a very human reaction, a natural reaction to being with someone who has let you down, and where you have been with someone who hasn't been, you've had reason to feel that. Basically, you've had reason to feel this way. So so let me understand this. Because there is a fine line here. When you talk about appreciating, so you're anxious, essentially, that worst case scenario is going to happen. So if you're looking at, so this actually goes well with another question that I'm going to answer about gut instincts here, because I think that's really the two. So I'll answer yours, Lindsay, right after this, because this is related to that. So, Alice, what I'm looking at here, you're not able to believe him. You're not able to appreciate what he's saying. If he says, I'm a serial monogamist, you're going to worry that he views the relationship as just another one. I see. So you're seeing this as you're just going to be one in a string of relationships where, yes, he's monogamous when he's in your relationship. So he's totally faithful to you. But you're going to see this as a serial means a string of relationships. So you're going to take this to, okay. So I don't think the issue is that you're not appreciating what he offers. I think you're scared that you're reading between the lines and you're trying to interpret to protect yourself. And that's causing the anxiety. So so this is interesting, Alice, because I actually think that what you are doing, I don't think you should change anything here except put this in a different perspective so that you don't feel anxious about it. Okay. And what I mean by that is I want you to see the reality picture. I want you to be skeptical as well as hopeful. Okay. So I want you to be skeptical, but I also want you to be hopeful. So when a guy says, as an example, I want you to see this as I'm a serial monogamist, that could mean what you're thinking, right? That could mean it could, yes. So you're saying he said it because he meant he's faithful to you. But then you're concerned that also what he might have meant is that this is just your relationship is just another one in a string of relationships that are temporary, right? Because serial sounds like it's repeated more than once. And so he may be, monogamous in each of those relationships, but there's a concern that there is a number of these. And so there's a concern that you might not be the only one. So okay, so the key is your perspective here. It is so good that you can see both sides. It is so good that you can see both the hopeful and the and the part you're uncertain about. Okay, it's good to be the optimist on this, but it's also good to be the pessimist. It's good to see both, because until you know a guy well enough, until you've really had a chance to get to know him, which is only through times and seasons before you actually know him better, there is no way that you can fully trust someone. I mean, that's what you're doing here. You're building trust, and you don't know this guy. So you need to know who this guy is. You need to have enough examples from him to know if you can trust him. You need to know all this. So I don't want you to just appreciate what he does offer. I want you to also see what he's not offering, or what there is a little bit of a doubt about until you've gotten to know him better. Time is the only thing that is going to be able to answer you this one. Okay. So it is your perspective about this. Instead of looking at this as there's something wrong with me, instead of looking at this as I need to do this, I need to be able to trust him. I don't want you to trust him right away. I want you to have this stance where it's both. The difference is, though, I don't want you to fixate either way. I want you to recognize that until you've gotten to know someone, it will take time before you can build that trust. It will take time before you know that you can let down your guard about what he's not telling you, and focus on what he is telling you he offers you. I mean, I want you to see behavior way more than words. To me, honestly, it is a really weird thing that this guy said in the first place, I'm a serial monogamist. Like, that is a weird thing to say. I want you to have your antenna up that's like wondering, is this, is this, are we on the same page? Is this guy too good to be true? Is this something like somewhere along the way, I think someone told you that you need to appreciate what someone offers, because you brought that up. And I think that person um, did not have your best interest at heart to say that, because I think you should always focus on both. What is not said and what is. I think there's something to be said for that on here. So what I would do, Alice, is I would, in order to not have anxiety, because that's my goal, is how do we help you with the anxiety about this? So I think just know in the beginning, when you're getting to know someone, and until you have developed a level of trust for them, until they have shown you consistent behavior, okay, consistent good behavior that aligns with their words, until enough time has passed that you have seen that behavior, so that it's not just a one-time occurrence, and it's not just so that you can see that this is an actual pattern of good behavior. Until that point, you have no reason to trust him. You really don't. I mean, so it's not blind trust. It's not just blindly appreciating what he does offer you. There is the inescapable time that it takes in the beginning to get to know someone better. And honestly, until you are at least 3 to 4 months, typically there is a pattern around there that for no more than 4 months can a guy sustain a facade. At some point, that he can't. It's not sustainable. So I would much rather you just take your time with someone, get to know them, figure out ways to remind yourself that, the beginning of a relationship is about getting to know someone. It's going to have a certain level of anxiety, but I will say this. Um, Listen to someone's words and make sure they match their actions. And then also, like, if someone says to you, I'm a serial monogamist, why didn't he just say, I don't know. I think it's the choice of words that almost sounds like a cliche. Like, why is he trying to tell you a cliche? I honestly think if someone were to say that to you, I would hold off on totally trusting this person. I would not just look at what they're offering. That's a weird thing to say. And I think your gut is right on to pick up on something here. And I'm really glad you asked, because I think if you have anxiety with a guy, there's a certain amount that is a healthy kind of anxiety, because it keeps you just assuming the best and blindsiding yourself for the worst. Okay? And so I'm really glad you asked that, Alice, because that's a really good question, which leads me to Lindsay's question. And if you're still with us, Lindsay, so that was really, I hope that helped actually answer yours a little bit with what I said to Alice, because Lindsay wrote to me, I'm having trouble listening to my intuition, and I have for as long as I can remember. It's hard for me to tell the difference between what is anxiety, what is fear, and what is intuition. So when people say trust your gut, I really struggle with this. So anytime a little voice or feeling jumps up inside of me, I can't really tell which of the three it is. And if I should push through the fear and anxiety, or if it's my gut truly warning me. Any advice on why this is and how to learn to trust my gut? Okay, I am so glad you asked that, because essentially, so it's anxiety, fear, and intuition, or your gut, right? First of all, I just want to clarify, we have never, ever, ever been taught to trust our gut. Okay? Like, we are taught the opposite. We are taught, oh, be a good little girl and give him the benefit of the doubt. Or, oh, when you remember, as a little girl, like when your grandma or grandpa came in, or some old lady in the church or something, and she came in and she like pinches your cheeks or something, and, oh, you're so sweet, right? Like, and what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to smile, and we're supposed to say, we're supposed to just smile and just act like we just enjoyed that, and we're supposed to just respect people like that, who violate our personal space, who come into our comfort zones, and they're supposed to be our own personal comfort zones, and violate that. And you might think I'm overreacting by that, but I have seen how there's such a slippery slope between letting someone do that, like an old sweet grandma, and abuse, physical, sexual abuse. I have known way too many people, women who start out as little girls, and that was the attitude, that you have to let someone, basically have control over your body, and you can't speak up because you're going to be rude and you're going to be disrespectful. And I have just seen that slippery slope play out. So I mean, I would love it if all of it was just this innocent, sweet grandma behavior, and it was okay, and you were only acquiescing, or you were only accommodating that one little thing. But when you feel that you have to respect your elder, respect someone who is older or bigger, or things like, I mean, just the inherent power abuses that go on as a result of that are just really concerning, and lead to some really bad places from there. So all of that just makes a difference, and it is really concerning. So we're taught not to trust our guts, because it is inconvenient for people who have power and control over us if we trust our gut. So the first thing is just to tell you, I mean, think about people in your life, right? Who were better served when you were younger, and growing up, by you just going along and not trusting your gut on something. I mean, how many times did you express something about someone in your life, and you were told, oh, they didn't really mean that, or, oh, no, it's not that. I mean, all of it, because it makes things easier for them, not for us, but for them. And as children, we were helpless with that. As little girls, I mean, we were helpless because that was just the way it was. And so no wonder you can't trust your gut. So you're yeah, by default, you're not supposed to be able to trust your gut. That's how we were trained. So start there. Okay. You're trained to not trust your gut. So that makes this really, really difficult, because that's where this all begins, right there. Um, so anxiety and fear. Okay. So let me tell you this about your gut. Your gut is almost always right. There are very few exceptions to when that gut is not telling you something, because I'll tell you this, anxiety and fear is telling you something. If you have anxiety about something, if you have if something feels fear, is eliciting feelings of fear in you, there is something to listen to. And so what I would tell you about this is always listen to your anxiety, and always listen to the fear, and follow it through with, and I would actually call your anxiety and your fear, I would call both of those your gut, because your gut has a way, if you're not able to listen, and for those of us who have just been taught you cannot, there's degrees to which we have had that cemented and just, drilled into us, that you are not to listen to you can't trust yourself, and don't trust yourself, and who do you think you are to think you know better about someone, who are you to think you know better about Mrs. Jones, or or the kid down the street, or who's whatever's going on there. But I mean, we're just, there's so many places where we're taught you don't know what your gut is you got it wrong. So the fear and the anxiety is what happens when we don't listen to our gut. Because if we listen to our gut the first time, there would not be a reason to have that anxiety and that fear. But when you have been taught that you cannot listen to your gut, to disregard that intuition that would normally speak up and have you listen to it and respond, it has to up the ante. It has to make more noise. It has to create more of a disturbance so that you will listen to it. So it makes you uncomfortable in terms of fear and in terms of anxiety. And that is why the fear and anxiety are there. So listen to fear and anxiety as a means to dig deeper, go deeper, figure out what is happening here, what is wrong. And because that is going to tell you whether or not it is something that you can actually ignore, or if it's something you need to pay attention to. And I would so much rather you spend some time there and find out you didn't have anything to worry about, that it was your gut telling you there was something there to investigate, but it wasn't the worst case scenario you had imagined. I would much rather you go through that exercise to find that out than to dismiss your fear and anxiety just because you felt like that it was that you didn't need to pay attention to it, or that you didn't need to listen to or I don't want you ever to dismiss fear and anxiety ever. Because if you're with the wrong people, you're going to have fear and anxiety. If you're with the right people, you will likely have very little fear and anxiety. If you're in situations that are good for you, you're going to have very little fear and anxiety. If you're in situations that are bad for you, you're going to have a lot of fear and anxiety. So I really think the most important thing you can do with that is listen to that, understand that they're picking up the slack where your gut is not being listened to. It's the same reason why a lot of us get sick. When you have not listened to something that would normally be from an emotional place, right? Or from a normally it's our feelings about something that cause us to do something. It's our feelings about something that cause us to um, take action, to take care of ourselves better, or to change something, or to remove something from our lives, or to bring in something, or whatever it is, right? It's usually a feeling. If you're not listening to your feelings because you have been taught that your feelings don't matter, that you don't know what you're talking about, if they've been minimized, if you've been made wrong, then all the stuff about your feelings is going to make you feel like you can't trust them. And so that is going to be the issue. And so that's where that's where our bodies then kick into high gear. That's when we get sick. That's when we end up flat on our back, in a hospital bed, because we can't hear what we need to hear. We haven't listened to what we need to listen to. And so when the emotional pain does not make us do something, does not cause us to take action, then our bodies up the ante, and all of a sudden it's a physical pain. And that comes into play to tell us, to raise the warning sign that no, you need to do something, because now it's not just that you feel it, but you have a physical symptom. So when that happens and there's physical stuff going on, that is telling you, yeah, pay attention here. And so you won't even ever have to go down that path, or rarely, if you first listen to what that intuition is trying to tell you. Okay, good. I'm glad that was helpful, Lindsay. That was actually really helpful for me to explain it to you in that detail, because I get that a lot. And I think that was really clear, especially coming off of Alice's question, which was related. So thanks both of you for that. Okay. My next one. Okay, so Sarah had a question, and Sarah asked if you can view this later if you're not available at that time. And yes, you can. So if you're listening, you can. So Sarah writes, I'm wondering if you think relationships work better if you're friends first. Okay, I absolutely think relationships work better if you are friends first. But you don't have to be like friends. Like, it doesn't have to be like a friendship that builds into something. That works wonderfully. But because you have to be able to have like a foundation with someone, and that is a friendship. Essentially, that is something where it's more than just physical. It's more than just an attraction. It's more than just all of the relationship. Like, a relationship's foundation is communication and enjoyment. Two people get along, two people can talk to each other, two people have similar interests and all that. And really, that is, relationships are friendships with an attraction. And so it can build from a friendship, and that is the best way to build from. But if no one that you're friends with right now is someone who you're also interested in, it can also be that you just shift into this friendship, into this dynamic where you are friends first without having a fully solidified relationship, by just dating in a way that you're meeting potential like-minded people, or you're meeting people who are on the same page as you. You're looking for friendships. You're looking for good people. You're looking for people to hang out with, to communicate with, where there will be some attraction there too, right? Where you can either build a attraction, or where you where you grow into it, where you're initially attracted. But all of this is about taking the pressure off, so that you're not viewing dating as this thing that causes pressure and discomfort and just all of this responsibility you're putting on yourself, and just the obligation to show up and have something that looks a certain way or is a certain way. And instead, it's just relaxing. And I know that's hard. So I know this is so much easier said than done, but it's the idea of just calming yourself enough so that you can approach dating as, I'm going to meet people and I'm going to see who shows up. If my outlook on this is that I am getting to know people, I'm seeing if there is someone who's on the same page as me, who I'm attracted to. And so I am looking to just form new friendships. I'm looking to meet new people, discover more good people who, have something that they're showing up in the world with that I find interesting, that there's enough in common, that there's like a level of respect. There's, you know what I'm saying? Like, all of this stuff that makes a friendship good. It's that with an attraction. That is all that dating is. And I wish we could think of it like that, because if you can think of it like that, you will save yourself so much pressure of trying to date a certain, even just the word dating has a connotation that there's like expectations that we have to show up with, that our guy has to be a certain way, that we have to act a certain way, that there's a protocol we have to subscribe to. And it's just a whole different thing. And if you don't think of it like that, if you think of it more as like laying the foundation, which is just finding decent human beings to get to know. I mean, I love meeting men and women. And if I were single again, I mean, I would literally do dating the way I did it at the very end, right before I met my husband. And that's essentially why I met him. But it was because I never understood this perspective that, I just want to live my life in a way that I can meet more people, interesting people who I might have some level of compatibility with, and just see who shows up and see, who I might be attracted to in that. But it's just, that feels so much better than this whole dating thing, that just the word itself can put so much pressure on there. So yes, Sarah, definitely better. If you're friends first, but you don't have to have a long established friendship. You can literally just be looking for friends to date, friends, someone who you'd like to become friends with, someone who you just would like to meet as a common, decent person. And that's it. It doesn't have to be anything more than that. So yeah, definitely. All right. Sue wrote to me, and Sue said, thanks, Sue. Sue said, love that you give your time to people who are having a hard time. Yeah, this is my favorite thing, my lives. What's with a guy I've been with on and off for 11 years? Okay, Sue, are you here? Susie? I realize you signed it Susie, so I like that. What's with a guy I have been with on and off for 11 years? So you'll get this on the replay. You'll know I was answering. Sometimes he's around and sometimes I hear nothing from him. Is this normal? I'm upset and there's so much more, but I can only ask one question at a time. All right. Well, you can ask more than that, but that's okay. This is a big one. Yeah, it's, I hope you're understanding this. If this is not a player, if this is not like and I hate labels, but if it is someone who is very selfish, if this is someone who, is more, I mean, if there is a pattern of a guy who's really selfish, a guy who's really, not just simple and not just, tone deaf on a lot of things. If this is not a guy who is playing you, that is the difference. Okay. That is what makes all the difference. So if this is not a guy who is playing you on and off for 11 years, which I do have some question about whether or not that might be what's going on here, because 11 years, I mean, is a really, really long time to be with someone where sometimes he's around and sometimes I hear nothing from him. So it's normal to a certain extent, but after 11 years, 11 years is a really long time for you to be putting up with this in someone who you're in a relationship with. 11 years this is it. 11 years means this is your guy. This is how he acts. This is how he behaves. So I don't see this as a question of, is this normal? I see this as begging the question for you of, can you live with this for any longer? This has been 11 years. Now I'm assuming there's enough good in here that you've been able to go on for 11 years with this guy. But the fact that sometimes he's around and sometimes I hear nothing from him, I just, 11 years of that. Not is this normal? Are you okay with this? Is this behavior okay for you? Because this is a lot for you to have to, be dealing with for 11 years. So this is who he is. Can you live with it? That is the only question here. Can you live with it? That is your one. I mean, you summed it up. I think you summed it up really well. Can I live with this? And all those other things you didn't ask here, everything else that you say there's so much more, but you can only ask one thing at a time. Ask yourself that of every single question. Can I live with this? Can I live with that when it comes to everything? Go through that. Go through all of those things. Can I live with that? And that's your answer. I don't know. I mean, if there's enough redeeming qualities of this guy, if you get enough out of being with him, if you cannot imagine him not in your life, if you can somehow live a life that is more true to yourself outside of him so that he is just one part of your life, you don't have to say goodbye to him. You don't have to, you know, but for someone to take front and center stage that he can make you upset, like, I know no one can make you upset, but you know what I mean. If he does enough of these behaviors that you feel really upset, and the cause can kind of be linked to the fact that it's how you feel about him and how he is with you, that's a really long time to be living like this. And I'll tell you, even another month of that, unless you're choosing, like, unless you're recognizing, okay, this, I want this guy in my life, like, change this into, how can you do the choosing here? How can you turn this around to, do I choose this guy for even another month? Do I choose this guy for any time more than what I've got here? Because that's a long time to be with someone. So, not is this normal? Can you live with this and go through each one of those things? All right, Susie. All right. Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. All right. Sheila writes. Sheila, are you here? Okay. All right. Sheila writes, "Hi Jane, I dated this man for 1 year and a half. Very consistent, picking me up 1 hour away, taking me out every week, and initiated texts every day for a whole year and a half." So, year and a half. I always pay attention to the time frame here. "He's very nice, respectful, and he's met my friends and family. He takes a day off whenever I asked him if he can come to our get-together party. He always does. His action is 100% into me. He never says anything about the relationship. I feel it's not moving forward." Okay, I never ask about the label. I assumed we're mutual. Okay, so this is sounding so much like so many women. So I think pay attention here, because this sounds like a lot of your stories here. So we assume a lot, right? So one day I texted and I asked, "What are we?" And I asked more to be open and more to communication if he wants a relationship to grow. He didn't reply for the first time. After 3 days, I texted him saying he was a nice man, but maybe he was not the man I thought he was. I respect him a lot. So you texted him this. Okay. So you texted him after he didn't reply. So he didn't reply the first time. Right. And the reason why he didn't reply is because you asked him the question of, "What are we?" And if you had to ask, then this is why you got that response, because he doesn't want to go there. He doesn't want to define it. So if you need to define it, then that means that's a priority for you. Or you have to ask yourself, do I need to define it? Because you've clearly got a guy who's not wanting to. He's happy the way things are. Okay. Okay. So let me go back. So he does not respond to you. So 3 days later, you text him saying, "He was a nice man, but maybe he was not the man I thought he was. I respect him a lot. If he replied and told me he's not ready for anything, I will understand and respect him more for his honesty. This pain I feel will go away. I'll be okay. He'll never hear anything from me ever again." So you texted that to him. Okay. Since then, we didn't have contact for 1 month. After 1 month, I texted. I always wanted the best for him and wished him all the happiness. He replied, "Thank you. You know, I wish the best for you. I'm sorry. The past couple months are really rough." He said his daughter and grandson were supposed to stop by my work to say hi, but ended up going somewhere. Okay. After 2 weeks, I reached out and said, "It's been kind of hard the past couple months. I'm trying my best, but sometimes the feelings still get to me. How have you been holding up?" He replied, "Still rough." He was hurt, but he's doing better. He told me he respects me a lot and he's sorry. Again, he said he's sorry. I reached out a couple more times. He always replied. We can chat with no hesitation, but he never initiates like before. He tells me what's going on since I know most of everything in his life and his routine. He's still very nice and respectful. He's telling me he'll stop by my work one day. I don't ask anything about when that's going to happen. He knows I'm living my life and I'm happy doing things with my friends. My question is, do you think we still have a chance to get back together? I decided not to reach out anymore from today, and I'll stick with it. We have a strong attraction and chemistry. Hope you can read this and reply to me. All right, Sheila. Well, I hope you're getting this on the replay if you're not listening here somewhere. So, yeah, you know what I say on this? I think you never had the relationship that I think you thought you had with him. And I think it was, what happened was, when you said, what are we? I think that was too much for him. And if you have a guy, when you say that, when you ask someone that, well, first of all, by having to ask, you kind of know, right? So you already kind of know. But when he answered your what are we with silence, that it was really telling. You guys are on two different pages, and he does not have that ability. He doesn't have the capacity to answer that. And that's why you got the silence from him. And so when you responded, and that is not on you, okay? That is not on you at all. This is about him not being ready. He's not there. He is not capable of he's not there. And again, I don't know if this is really I don't think this is someone who necessarily wants to hurt. I don't think he wants to hurt you. I think it's just he was just enjoying things the way they were. He was very nice. He was very respectful. He met you. He took a day off whenever you asked him. I mean, I think he stopped initiating because it became clear that you wanted more, and he's not ready to give you more. And a lot of men are not willing to give more and can't give more, and choose not to. I mean, it is a choice, but choose not to, because to give more means pressure, and it just brings up a whole bunch of stuff, and they're not ready for that. They're not wanting more, and it's not always because they want to play the field. It also can just be that they're just more comfortable not feeling like they have to fit into some kind of a um you know a compartment of how they're supposed to behave. They don't want to fit into some cliche of how they're supposed to be and what they're supposed to be about and all that. Okay. So it doesn't, and it sounds like he said, still rough, right? So he's going through something. And I think he tried to tell you that. He's been rough. I mean, he's going through something, and love can't always fix those things. I think they can for us. I think for the most part, most of us have been so sold on the idea that love will cure everything, that we can, that love can. It becomes something that is so ingrained in us that when we are loved, it does cure most things. Men don't have it the same way. Men, when they have love, it cures a lot, but not the deep dark stuff in that place where they have their demons, or they have their way they see things, or their own programming about things, and they don't just get better. We don't just fix things by loving them. We don't understand that, right? I mean, I don't know of anyone really who doesn't feel like having love in our lives wouldn't fix most of all that ails us, right? Like, most that's wrong would be fixed with being loved. Well, men don't see it that way. I think they've never had that programming like we have. For them, it's other things, and it's different. So I think so. Yeah. I do not think that I mean, there's always hope. There's always a chance that someone recognizes, enough events happen in their lives, or something tragic happens, unfortunately, but just life happens, and someone recognizes that, hey, I don't want to be alone. I want to have someone in my life. I want to have a partner and all that. But I'm not seeing outside of that, like just in the normal course of things. Because it's already rough, right? Like he's telling you life is rough. It hasn't changed. 3 months later, it's still rough, and he's sorry, right? So I mean, that to me, that sounds like a guy who literally, this is as much as he can give you, and this is as much as he's got to give in a relationship. He's sorry about it because he knows he's disappointing you, and that doesn't feel good. So he says, "I'm sorry." So at least he's acknowledging something here. But that's part of the problem, right? It's the responsibility. I think he feels a lot of responsibility. And what it would be like to be in a relationship would be that he would have to be held to that level of responsibility. He doesn't want to do that. So he's going to say, I'm sorry, because it weighs heavily on him, and he doesn't want it that way. So what I'm seeing from this is that, he sounds like a good guy. But if you want more, so the only way there could be anything more here is if you, did not need more from him. And it can't be something where you just determine, okay, I'm not going to need more from him. I'm going to be okay without needing more from him. It can't be that, because you can't turn this on or off. It has to come legitimately from yourself. It has to come naturally, where, and this is why my beautiful Confident Radiant You program is all about discovering yourself, because you have to discover who you are. Apart from this, I need to be loved in order to be whole, and even if this plays out subconsciously, even if you are like the most, independent woman on your own, and you would like just cringe at that anyone could feel like they need to be loved, to be something. You don't understand like how ingrained this is in our stories, in the scripts that play out in our heads. I mean, we have been immersed in these messages in just by being alive here in our culture. I mean, it's getting better, a lot better, but only in the last decade or so are we seeing the stuff that we never had a chance to see early on. And so we were immersed in this idea that love conquers all. Love makes everything better. You just need to find someone to love you. Everything will be fixed, right? And then how many have found that not to be true? Well, men never had this, right? So it's very different. So you have to be able to discover enough about what makes you happy and enough of who you are outside of a relationship so that you can genuinely say to this guy you care about and you want to have a relationship with, so that you can genuinely say to him, hey, let's go do something. Let's go. If you miss the companion part, right? Like if you miss him in your life, then you have to figure out what to do with the rest of your life that wants this guy to fill every part of that life of yours. You have to be able to be legitimately okay, like honestly okay, from a place within yourself, not pretending, not thinking I'm so independent I should be able to do it. That doesn't work. Because what we learned, that is what we hear. And so if you can say to someone, okay, I can accept you for who you are and what you have to offer, but it can't be something you say. He won't believe you. He'll think you're trying to manipulate him. He'll think you don't know yourself. He'll think he knows better. And it has to be something where you can actually say to him, let's go do something that you enjoy doing. And it becomes like that he's there for the things that you like about him, for the things that you're looking for him to do, that he can do, that are unique to him. Not everything, not this idea of everything. And I'm not saying you can't find someone who has most of those things, but this guy is not it. This guy is showing you clearly what he's got. And the fact that he's in a rough place now and doesn't need you, doesn't want you, not you personally. Okay. But someone like you who could love him, who could help him, who could, be there for him. I mean, obviously there's something there, but it's not, you felt that it's not moving forward because it wasn't moving forward, because you were absolutely right that he could not, he couldn't handle it. He wasn't capable of that, however you want to think of it. But there's something there where it didn't get any further than how it got. And that would be, even if the two of you got back together, that would probably be the point. That would always be the point that you would stop at again, because he's told you, unless something drastically changed, because he's told you that is the point where he stops talking, where he stops communicating, where he stops initiating, right there. Okay. And you did the right thing by not reaching out anymore. And that's it, right? It's the chemistry and attraction. So it makes I mean, your story is just, I hear one like yours probably at least once a day with new people I meet on my calls, because essentially, yeah, you find out when you push for more, you find that out. And the only way to have anything with him is literally to just have something where you figure out what someone like him, why you want him, right? Aside from this all-encompassing love that he can't give you, is there something else that you want from him? And could you have something with him about that? So basically, if you guys had something in common, for example, if you liked a certain type of music and you like certain kinds of concerts, or if there was a certain movie genre or some sci-fi, whatever you're interested, if there was something, or if whatever it was, if you guys had something in common, or some sport, tennis, whatever, if there was something that you guys really enjoyed that you both had in common, could you do that with him? Could you have a compartmentalized relationship? Most of us can't. Most of us are that, whether or not genuinely we can't because we don't desire that, or whether or not because our just programming is so strong that it makes us feel there's something wrong with us, or that we're settling if we could be with that. There's a whole other perspective that you can learn. so that you don't feel like you're settling when you're with that, so that you understand what it means to choose. But that is a conversation for a different day, because that would be something that, yeah, that takes a lot, because you have to basically reprogram yourself to be able to have that. Okay. And it's not settling with that. All right. Let's see. I have got Michelle here, and Michelle says, hi, Jane. I am so inspired with your online content and guidance. Oh, thank you, Michelle. Are you on here today? It's really sweet of you. Thank you. I'm glad. I seek to inspire, because we need inspiration. We need hope to know that things are not going to be the way they have always been, because you do have control over that. You absolutely do. And I'm hoping that's what you take from here, is the ability to choose something, even in your circumstances that feel like there is no choice. There is a choice to be found in there. My story is that I've been with my man for 4.5 years. The struggle is that I thought we were both on the same page with building a future together, to only have to deal with him calling our relationship off twice now over the past 6 months. And now he's inserting himself back into my life again, and I'm not quite sure if he wants to remain in the friend zone or not. It's like he doesn't want to truly commit, and yet he can't let go completely. I still love this man with all my heart, and I've even tried going on a couple of dates, and yet my heart is still with my man. Ugh. Thank you for all you do to help others, Michelle. Okay, Michelle. So 4.5 years is a long time. And so you thought you guys are building this future together, and you thought, and so he called so basically he called the relationship off twice. And then, so it's kind of, he's coming back. He wants to remain friends. You're absolutely right. Okay. He doesn't want to truly commit, yet he can't let go completely. So what's going on here is, so this is where he's showing you, he's telling you, this is all I'm capable of. I don't want to let you go. You have way too much value. You offer way too much. I care way too much about you to not want you in my life, but I can't do a full commitment. And so I think this came up. There was a question about navigating the whole friendship piece. Like, how do people agree to be friends? And maybe this was the one where you talked about that. Maybe you said, anyway, someone sent me an email, I think a week or two ago, and it was about, how do you be friends? How do you negotiate like friendships? And when you've cared more about someone, right? And so I'll tell you, the key to that is you have to be able to understand what a friendship is. Like, if you can't, it will be really, really difficult for you to be friends, because you're going to be wanting more. You're going to feel like everything is a slight if he pays attention to any other woman, even if it's something totally benign. If you guys were out as friends in a restaurant and he was like being extra friendly with, if you had someone there who was a little bit flirty and he was being friendly, that is going to like just put you over the top. Like that is going to be awful for you. That's going to be so excruciatingly painful to have to witness any of that. So you have to understand that unless you can actually be friends with someone, unless you can understand that you're choosing to have someone in your life for some level of a relationship, even if it's not what you want, but if you're not okay with that, then you cannot do the friendship. It is something you have to choose. I am willing to be friends because I would rather have this person in my life than not have them in my life, that they offer enough of the good things that they offer for me to have them in my life. I mean, that's really what this all comes down to. You have to be able to accept the realities of what a friendship is and what a friendship isn't. And you have to also know your blind spots. So you have to be able to understand that this may be difficult because of what, right? Like you may have been told, that if a guy friends you, if a guy just wants to be your friend, that you're not attractive, that you're not good enough, or you're not, right? So you have to be able to look at that. Will I have these self-esteem issues? Am I going to plummet whatever remaining self-esteem I had because being friends with someone is going to make me feel this way, because I will not be able to accept this, knowing myself, knowing that it's just a friendship. Okay. So it's so important to know yourself. And this is why my entire message is you have to find yourself first. And before you find someone else, like and you can meet someone else, but the quality of that relationship is going to be indicative of the quality of how well you know yourself and the relationship you have with your actual true self. Who am I? You have to know what you can tolerate, what you can't, what you can pretend about, what you can't. You have to know all of these things before you decide that you're going to couple up with someone, if those things are going to be triggering things that are going to trigger you in a way that you are left insecure and doubting yourself in a relationship. So and not able to communicate from a place of being in a communicating the way you want to, because you are forever dealing with the shadow sides of your personality, or just what you've been through. You have to know your triggers, and you have to know the programming that has been, the stories, the scripts that have written themselves for you, that you hear. And unless and the way these play out, and unless you understand all those things about yourself, you're going to look at some guy's behavior and you're going to determine that there's something wrong with me, you're going to attribute it to yourself, when that is just not. And that is going to cause you to behave in different ways that are not going to be you behaving on your best behavior in terms of to get the best results that you want, to get what you want out of this. So you have to know yourself, and are you capable of being friends in the first place? Okay. All right. So that's that. And okay. And then the last one. Okay. Let's see. No, I got another one here, and then I'm going to go to the chat. Actually, I'm not sure if I had if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat, and I will answer my chat questions at the end. I should have told you guys that. But yeah, so I will answer those afterwards. So Vicky wrote and said, I'm at the point of 8 weeks post breakup. So Vicky's been broken up for 8 weeks, and I'm trying to navigate staying friends. My gut feeling is friendship later on, when I'm in a better mindset after completing my deep self-healing coaching program. I'm currently in the limbo phase of casual dating and still remaining open in case he returns. I'm stronger now and leaning more towards moving forward and doing what's best for me to maintain a full cup and not depend on anyone for my happiness and security. You're exactly right on the question that remains. It's still yet to be answered and hard to navigate. Okay, so I think I answered, the friendship later on piece. You basically you answered what you said here is exactly what I just said. So that's I hope I answered that for you by confirming yes, because I think your question, I think what you were saying here is your gut feeling is friendship later on. I think you're just looking for the confirmation and maybe the validation that it's yet to be answered and it's hard to navigate. But I'm going to absolutely agree with your gut. Once again, that friendship later on, when you're in a better mindset after doing the coaching program, because I completely agree with you. There's a self that we are in relationships, and usually that based on our upbringing, but there's usually a lot of codependency in that. And again, I don't like labels, but it could be helpful to explain it. But basically it means that when you have someone in your world, you can lose your independency. You can lose that independence that you had. And I don't even know if independent, you know what I meant. I just realized independency is not a word, Jane. So you can lose your independence by feeling that, once you're in a relationship, there's something that's different. And so all of a sudden you have someone who you're seeing yourself through and who you're looking at. That person becomes like this mirror for you. And so all of a sudden you can be the most independent, self-confident person, but you're with someone now who every little thing, like you're triggered to paying attention to, like, does this mean he still loves me? Does this mean he might leave me? Does this mean he might be interested in someone else? So there's something unique that goes on in a relationship setting that even the most confident, independent person can have. And that's what, you're onto here. So yes, the question remains, what will happen after you come out of this? Because I'll tell you, being in a coaching program is going to be transformational. Like being able to have someone reflect back to you what you can't see because you're too close to it. You're in it. And that programming just keeps it hidden. And being able to be open to seeing something in there, anything is possible, and you don't know how you're going to be on the other side of it. I have seen like miraculous changes come out of just having one person see you for who you actually are when you have never been seen, and you didn't even know that you weren't being seen. Because that's really the beauty of it, is you all of a sudden realize something that you never even knew was there or wasn't there, because it wasn't even a question. So, all right, Vicki, I'm glad that's resonating with you in there. Erica wrote to me, and Erica says, "Hi, Jane. I still have a few coaching calls on the books, and I definitely need to use one here soon." You do, and I'll look forward to that. But how do you know when to factor someone into your life decisions and when not to? I'm having to make some life decisions, and I can either choose to stay in the area. Oh, you got big location, geography questions. I can either choose to stay in the area to be close to him or decide not to factor him in and go anywhere else. Obviously, there's a lot of details and complications I can't get into here on the video call, but how do you know? Okay. So what I'm going to say about this, it is really difficult. Yeah. Because basically you've got someone who there isn't the level of commitment that would have you stay in the same place. I mean, this is what I'm reading based on our conversation before too. But anytime for anyone else as well. I mean, when you have when you have life decisions that need to be made, and some of those involve like moving or staying somewhere, and you know, if someone is not a big enough part of your life that they are automatically part of this decision, then yeah, you have to make this decision on your own based on the reality of what you know, the information you have. And if you need more information, you've got to go get that information. So before you do anything, like before you make a final decision, you have to get more information so that you can comfortably make a decision, knowing that you have taken all the information that you had and you made the best decision based on what you knew at the time. Because I want you to come out of this without any regrets. I want you to come out of this without feeling like you missed something here and that would have changed the entire trajectory of that decision. You might not have moved, you might have moved, so there's just, the goal is like the least amount of regrets here. So that's what I would do. I would look at what's missing. What information do you need here? What still remains to be seen? What is that? And then that's what I would do. I would do what you need to do to get that information. So whether it's a direct communication with him, where you come out directly and you say, now, if you get an ambiguous answer from him or you get a non-answer, that is information, right? I mean, it is. There was someone who I talked to, and they did end up moving away, and they did end up saying, like, they sat down with him and they literally said, or they communicated with him in a way that they came right out and said, I am thinking of moving. Do you care if I move away, or do you have anything to say about us and what we have had and me moving away? Because obviously if I move away, that's kind of closing the door. And then their response was everything. So I don't know if it's possible for you to have a direct conversation like that. I would try, because I think his silence or his answer is going to give you that information. So whenever you're in a situation where you have to make life decisions and you're not sure whether to factor someone in or not, if you don't have enough information to make that decision, to give you the greatest amount of peace and the least amount of regrets making it, because that's kind of the goal. So you need to get more information from him, and whether or not you're able to do that easily, whether or not it's and I guess the thing here too is that don't be afraid to try to get information, because regardless, like, just an attempt to get information will give you feedback. Like I said, silence will tell you something, and so will whatever else you get. But that's what I would do with that. Get more information. And at some point, if you can't get any more information, then accept the fact this is as much information as I'm going to get, and go from there. Okay. Yeah. And then we can talk about it more. If you need a link to my calendar for your next sessions, just let me know in that. Okay. And Okay, here was another one that I had. All right. So this one was, I'm so confused. Okay, this is someone, Casey. Okay, Casey. Um, Ghosted is her subject line in this email. I'm so confused with what happened to me. I met a guy on a night out. I'm 41 and he's 50. I've been divorced many years and single, and he was married 25 years and divorced 3, but had different relationships. Okay. He didn't seem too interested, but sent me a Facebook friend request a month later. Okay, so you met him on a night out. He sent you a friend request. He sent a few memes here and there and eventually started a conversation. I noticed his profile said in a relationship. That's the first red flag. Definitely. If someone has on their profile and yeah, that would definitely be a red flag. Okay. I waited for the next time he messaged me to confront him with this info. He eventually asked me to come out and play some pool, to which I confronted him about the relationship. He told me it was over and he didn't love her and they weren't committed. She was in rehab. I told him I'd have nothing to do with him until he handled that situation. Good for you, because that's the first thing, right? I mean, that, that's, yeah, everything's out in the open, and you're setting a boundary, you're letting him know. A couple weeks after he told me he broke it off, she requested another conversation, and I told him he needed to give her that closure. So basically, you're teaching him how to be with her. Okay. I then asked him if he'd ever told her he loved her, and he admitted he did, but he didn't actually love her. Another red flag. Okay, so because if he told her that he loved her, but he actually didn't, so that would be a red flag. If he could lie to her, he could lie to you. He was divorced after a 25-year marriage, and I was worried he wasn't over that yet either. However, he was so convincing. He always put full effort into our relationship, and we spent almost 3 months together, night and day. He told me he loved me multiple times, but I always had some jealousy and trust issues from the way we started, which did cause some problems, especially if we had drinks together. Anyway, one night we had a fight over my jealousy. And I would not call it jealousy. I would say you were right on with reading something, interpreting something correctly, and you had something to kind of be jealous about. I mean, it sounds like there's something there, and we'll find out more. But anyways, one night we had a fight over my jealousy. He left me at his house at 3:30. He left me at his house at 3:30 a.m., never to return. It's been 5 days. And he's not been home and not been active on social media and won't respond to my calls or text. 5 days. Okay, I'm left wondering what happened. He said he loved me. I must have missed the signs. In our fight, I did tell him he's not my man, to which, okay, so you said he's not, to which I profusely apologized the next day, only to have zero. Okay, so you're in the middle of a fight, you say things that, afterwards you want to apologize. I can't help but drive by his house, but I never see his car. I know he's alive because 3 hours after he left, he changed his Facebook picture to remove a picture of us. I don't know what to do with myself. I've given up trying to contact him, but I still try to see if he's ever come home. All right. So basically, yeah, so all those signs in there are telling you, I mean, yeah, so I think you're right on. I think go back and look at all the signs that you missed, because I mean you didn't want to miss them, right? I mean we only miss signs because we really 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 don't want to believe that that's the truth. So that's why we miss the signs. So I would not don't be too hard on yourself. The other thing I'm paying attention to the red signs the red flags. So the signs like in a relationship when you met him, right? And then lying about or when he friended you and you'd met him out. And then the whole thing with saying he did tell her he loved her, but he didn't actually love her, right? So that means, okay, this guy can lie to serve him, or say the right things and all that. And you're saying he was so convincing. So I mean, he was convincing. He probably had an excuse. He probably had a reason for all these things. That's all in there. So I'd be paying attention to that. Those are all the parts of this. But the other part I want you to see is you said for 3 months it was amazing. You guys were together like night and day. So like I have a post, and I think I made it into a video all about the 3-4 month mark. So you cannot give your heart away to someone and not risk being hurt. If it's before the 3-4 month mark. I mean, to be safe, yeah, go the 4 months. Almost every relationship that takes a shift happens at that 3-4 month mark, because what someone can only sustain that night and day amazing stuff that you talked about for the 3 to 4 months. So I am so sorry this ended this way. I know this is really hard. You don't know what to do with yourself. I mean, I think remind yourself that this guy was never into the relationship the way that you were. He was in it to show you, for it was, I mean, I do think he cared about you. I do think he really enjoyed that 3 months with you. But I think this is what happens. It just, when something is so intense, right? And he's lying and he's, he's just, even if it's a little white lie, like he's stretching the truth, or he's just, he's capable of lying. This is a guy who really got excited about you. And I really think he thought that you could save him from whatever, stuff is going on for him, or you could just be this perfect woman that could magically make his life all better for him. I think he thought that it was just you who was going to do all that for him. He got so excited. He gave you his absolute best for three months, but that's all he had. That's all he had. There was nothing more. He didn't have any more to give to you than that. And this is why it ends so badly, because what you saw is just the complete disappearing act. I mean, poof, yeah, ghosted like this. I mean, this is the thing. When someone comes on that strong, they cannot talk to you. They cannot save face. They can't, I mean, there's nothing they can say to fix this. And they feel so like just embarrassed. And they can't face you. They can't face you to admit, look, this is how I behaved, to acknowledge, yeah, I blew it. And how they hurt you and so this is the thing. The guy runs, he disappears, he's gone. You don't see him anymore. That's what happened. And it is really hard. But, the thing is to remind yourself, you did the best you could here with, you got caught up in it. And so you tried to stay away from, you tried to notice the sign, or you tried to, you asked him questions and you told him what he needed to say to this woman, before you. And so you did some good things in there with trying to figure this out and to make this into something, and it didn't work. And that's not because, I mean, the only way this would work is if you could accept him the way he is. It comes back to that. If you can accept him, that's one thing. But really, if you cannot take this so personally, it will be easier for you to move on. Because I suspect you are not the only one he's done this with. I will tell you that from everything that you wrote in there, this sounds so much like a guy who has done this before, who keeps on doing this, and it is a pattern, and it is the 3-4 month thing that is the biggest clue. It's all the intensity. And what you wrote in there about it being every day and night for like 3 months, that is like the classic of cases of, these scenarios. And afterwards, you never see hide nor hair. They're nowhere to be found. And you wonder, are they alive? Are they still alive? And yeah, he's still alive. You got evidence of that, so you can know that. But yeah, that's it. Okay. But yeah, it's hard to do. Focus back on yourself and your life. You still have a life to live, and you still are every bit as attractive and beautiful and desirable as you were when you met him out in the first place, right? And that is still you. It's just this guy just isn't looking for a relationship more than that sustainable maximum 3 months that he could do. And like I said, I think there's going to be a lot of you. I don't think that you are by far the only person that he has been involved with like this. Okay. All right. Okay. So this one came in from Gina. Gina, are you here? Gina wrote me a really good one, because I really, I got this just before I was getting ready for this, and Gina got one in here. So Gina, you're going to get this on the replay when I send that out tomorrow. Okay. So Gina wrote, "Hi, Jane. I don't need any more. Why? The only closure is accepting that the other didn't care and enjoyed the one-sided fantasy situationship, just like a ride at an amusement park. When I became woke to the inconsistencies, ironic that he called me inconsistent when he was living with someone the whole time, I'm not looking for more in-depth information about narcissism, ghosting, and returning, zombie and gaslighting. I haven't seen the old black and white movie that the term came from yet, but will. Not looking for more info on the psychological cruelty of power tripping, put downs, and abandonment. Okay, so you've got everything that I talk about. So, okay, so you have been listening for a while. Okay, because you got it all. I'm glad you got all that, because that's it, right? You can't move on until you have your why. I have a program called Why Men Pull Away. That's like my most popular program because it explains so much in there. And I created that because what I was saying all the time on my calls, and it was just going into detail the explanation that I assumed everyone knew because I'd said it so much, but it was only me explaining it so many times. And so I wrote it out and made it into an audio program because there is so much in there that will free you from asking why. But this is so interesting, Gina, and this is why I really enjoyed this, because as I was reading it, you can't get past the why. You can't get to the next part until you've answered your whys, because the questions will keep you up at night, wake you up in the middle of the night, like why, right? Because we blame ourselves, or we try to make sense of it so that we can figure out what happened, so we can stop blaming ourselves, right? So yeah, okay. And I will answer your whys forever. I mean, as long as you need a why, I will answer those, because you cannot move on until you've answered why. And once you've answered why, then you can move on. Okay. So what I would love to know, Gina writes, is what do you do to heal and get to the other side and then stay on the other side to find your Mr. Right? How long did it take you? How did you protect yourself during the healing? I'm not dating, not looking. My Instagram is for other groups, not for trolling for a mate at all. Okay. Please share your journey. I don't want to be solely in perpetual healing. Stay away from me. I don't want to be hurt again mode. I enjoy the dance solo, but I might want to be with someone. I'd love you to share your story and life on the other side, the side of healing and happily ever after. Okay, Gina. All right, Gina. Well, so basically, for those of you who want to go deeper with that, my Beautiful Confident Radiant You program is based on everything I did. And it's my signature program, and you get a coaching session with me at the end that's included in that, because at the end of that, we'll go fill in all the missing pieces from your life, if you have any questions on and those still remain. But yeah, I mean, that is essentially step by step, that 4-week program of everything that I did. And the biggest part of it was just essentially that. You know, I originally had that program titled, my first title with that was how to attract someone, right? And then what I realized was that, you know, essentially it was what everything that I did to attract someone were things that I had control over, because it was everything that I did to change my own life, to change who showed up and who I found. And that is how I found someone so totally different from every single guy that I had ever dated, and basically put, you know, everything into trying to make work, and all of them were the wrong ones. So, I mean, essentially, yeah, you know what I did? I did exactly what you did. I first answered all my whys. I spent my whys were just, I mean, the entire reason I started down this journey and I went into psychology first was because I had so many whys, and I wanted to understand I thought I had the formula. I thought I had it all figured out. And how could I end up heartbroken time after time, even after I thought I got it right? Like, I'd go through another breakup. You could be my twin, Gina. I'd go through a breakup, and then, you know, I'd come out of that. I'd have learned so much. I'd have studied it, read, you know, listened, came up with everything, and figured it all out. And still I could not figure it out. And so that was my fascination. How does someone like me end up like this? And so I went back to school, and I studied psychology instead of the whole business PR degree that I had focused on when I was 18, because my whole thing instead was, I need to figure this out, because if it can happen to me, then, you know, what It can happen to anyone. And so what is this thing about our human behavior? And interestingly enough, there was psychology was what was fascinating, but even more fascinating, and I never understood this at the time, but of course now I understand it. It's because but the classes that I had, the lectures on sociology and anthropology, which brings into it the culture, that was like such a wake-up call. And those were actually some of my favorite classes, and I never expected that would be the case. But anyway, it's really interesting. So yeah, the biggest thing that I did was I awakened to all the different things that I had learned that I didn't even realize that I was learning. And I did not realize all of it's what I talked about. If you want to go back, if you're joining now, if you want to go back and you want to listen to my response to I think it might have been Lisa on here, but I was talking about just how, we hear these cliche words, right? Like programming and conditioning and, all of this, speak that psychological speak that basically refers to like how we were brought up and how we learned about the world and what we learned about love. But that's essentially all it is. It's just learning about love, like most of us. So I mean, when you ask like what I did what most of us do. I thought that I just had to be the perfect person, and I just had to love enough and love someone hard enough and good enough, and I had to be as perfect as I could possibly be, which meant, to be feminine and be pretty and be attractive to a man and be sexy and be giving and caring and compassionate and loving and, all the things that I might naturally have been. But I just learned that just do more of that, and if a guy changes, if he starts changing after the 3 months, just do more, just do more and more and more of that. And so I was just caught up in this perpetual cycle of just doing all of that, thinking that was going to eventually win me over, the guy that I was looking at the time. But what I was doing is I was picking all these men who basically fulfilled this story that I had, the script that was my life, that was my belief system, my entire definition of love was based on. And so what I learned is to look at that objectively and see that, wait a second, this has influenced who I have chosen, the men that I have gone out with, the men that I'm attracted to, the signals that tell me if I'm in love, the things that tell me this is not someone that I am in love with, and someone who I want to friend zone. Like everything, all my cues were coming from this erroneous programming that had just brought me to this place where I did not know what actual love was. And what I was calling love was not love. And what I was calling like this amazing relationship that started out great, there were so many red flags, like the rest of you talk about in there. So really, it was a waking up to to who I was, what I actually wanted, what I, and so a lot of this changed like my communication. So I started to have like more direct communication, and I started to not, I instead of everything being about a guy and getting a guy to love me, my life became much more about my own life. And it became about like, what do I even like to do? Like, because I thought, it's putting in perspective, going back to like this long lost little girl, right? When you stopped being able to be yourself and you start having to conform, again, subconscious, you're not going to recognize this. This isn't something that someone talks about, or if they do, it becomes like cliche stuff and it doesn't make, or, we dismiss it, or it's just, oh, there's that again. And it seems heavy and it seems like really involved in a lot of work to figure it out. So, this isn't a lot of work. It's simply being able to see the stories that have been played out, the things you have absorbed, the things from the culture you've absorbed, the things from your family that you've absorbed, all the messages you've absorbed, and what that means to you. And it's just a matter of being able to look at all of that, figure out what it is that where your blind spots are, and just paying attention to that, to those blind spots, and really seeing yourself for who you actually are, what you're actually looking for, looking at self-defeating behaviors that are, not serving you and not getting what you want, and just being able to be, I think the most important thing is to be able to be honest with yourself, which is a really, really hard thing to do, because it's much easier to look for confirmation of what you already believe, and see and prove to yourself why that is true, and why what you're trying to, see isn't, because it's harder to do that, much harder, much easier to stay comfortable. So it's looking at all those things, but in simplest terms, I did something different from what I had always done before. And then I did a series of different things than I had done before, based on who I was now. Because the more you learn about yourself, the more you discover these things that cause you to behave differently and do different things. And then probably the biggest thing is I mixed it up. I changed things around. I changed the energy. I changed the vibe. I changed something. I did whatever I needed to do to just have. I tried something different, right? I tried different things, and I went different places. And there's just things like that. I mean, imagine who you are when you go on vacation and no one. And you know how vacations are like great times to meet someone, because you're relaxed and you're not trying to impress anybody and no one knows you. It's like you've got a clean slate and you're starting fresh. Well, imagine that self that you become when you go on vacation somewhere and no one knows you. There's nothing to prove. There's nothing to do. And become that. Like adapt more of that vacation you in your life, because that is going to be more of a true you. That's going to be more of who you actually are in there. So that's I mean, the biggest thing, and depending on your individual situation, it really depends, but that's a big part of it, to just understand that, and see how you have power over this. You can control that. And a big part of it is literally just going back to that little girl that you used to be, when you had hopes and you had dreams and you had plans. What was that? What was that like? What did you want to be? Because I'll tell you, um, some of you know the story, but probably most of you don't. But I met my husband twice, and the first time I met him, we neither of us were ready for each other, and so we met, but the timing was not right, and who we were in that timing was not right, and we literally went on one date, and that was it. We went on one date, and I mean, the afterwards, what we both found out was he thought he had thought this totally different story about me, than was actually true. But there were certain things that I did that made him think that I was just totally wrong, right? But he thought that I was looking for someone, that I was going to need, like everything, like I was going to be like, I think he called it a clinger. And so he thought that I was going to just, zap all the energy out of him, and I was going to need, like, needing way too much from him that he was ready for. And what was interesting is that was just the beginning of me kind of getting to know myself. And I don't know that he was wrong on that. I think he was picking up on something of that. So at the time, he wrote me off because, and actually, to be honest, I don't think I was ever in a relationship. Once I was in it. So I was so independent in the beginning, but once I was in it, I was very much that I wanted to be together, and I wanted to do everything in that relationship, because that meant love to me. That was the whole point of being in a relationship to me. And so I don't think he would have been that wrong. But what was interesting is I also was not as interested in him, because I was still looking for all of the really shiny objects. And he was very down to earth and just very different from my type. So I wasn't sure about him. But what was interesting is we got another chance at that, because this is where I believe, whatever you believe in, whether it's, the universe or God or whatever you believe in, right? There's a spiritual element to this, where love does play a role here in the universe and God and whatever, in bringing people together. And so he and I, a year and a half later, met a second time under circumstances where neither of us each of us had resisted going out that particular night where we would end up in the same place, and we met the second time. And if we hadn't met the first time, we wouldn't have recognized each other the second. I actually recognized him. He didn't recognize me. But that everything was different. It had been a year and a half. I had sworn off men. I was done with dating completely. I hated dating. Dating had become awful for me. And I finally had woken up enough to just that the solution was, I am going to get out there and live my life. I'm going to do things I had never done before. And that's what I ended up doing. And he had stopped dating for a while because he was just hanging out with his friends, snowboarding and scuba diving and just traveling and just doing hanging out with his male guy friends and not worrying about it and just so we were both at that place and we met, and then the rest is history. So there is something to this where the universe or God or whatever you call that works with intention. And when you are clear in your intention and when you know what it is that you are looking for and what you are absolutely not looking for, you can't mess this up. And that is the hope, I think, having seen that and lived that in my own life. I want that for everyone because I see this happen for other women in ways that are unique to them, but all over the world. I have women who tell me that it's never going to happen for them, and it happens for them. Why does it happen for them? Well, because at some point it started with them just doing something different. And we can tailor what you do different based on what you're currently doing now. But the idea is to do something different, mix things up, shake up the energy, just something different. Imagine who you are when you go on vacation. Bring vacation self into this. When there is no, this idea of what everything is supposed to be, and when you have to answer for yourself, and when you have to be a certain way, bring that into it, and let's see what happens there, because there is always hope. I see this every day. You don't always see it, but you can find hope in people who, this happens for just by changing and starting with one thing, a single step, and it happens. Okay. Anyway, Gina, if you need more specifics with that, you let me know. I can answer it on the next one. But that's essentially it, and that is what summed it up. That is the end. Crazy how 3 hours can fly by. That is the end of the ones that I've got time for. But I do want to. And in the chats, did anyone have anything? I didn't see, I think we were able to chat in real time this time. So, I think I think I got to most of those in the chat. Okay. So the one thing that I did not have on here, and I just realized it in talking to you, but there was someone who I answered on my last live. And she had written me a follow-up question because her question was, she was the one, she was the dog walker. And I don't know if you remember that from the last one. She had a long story about this guy, and she has been beating herself up for like months over this guy because she felt like she ruined everything, because this one conversation at the end, the last time that things were like normal and okay, and they were together in more of a sense than they ended up being. But basically, she felt like there was this one critical point where he opened up to her and showed some vulnerability and on his part, and he actually said something sweet to her. Or what did he? Anyway, it was at the end where he said something like. He called her some affectionate name, and she abruptly, it was like the first crack that there was something there. And she gave, anyway, this is for you, my friend, the dog walker, when you come on here from wherever you are going to be listening into. But I realized I'd forgotten about you until now because, anyway, so what I want to say, here's what matters. Her question was, so she's been beating herself up thinking that she blew it. She said one thing that blew it, and she thought that was it. She thought that because she's been blaming herself, beating herself up because when there was this little crack wide open here, and he said something that was really soft and sweet and sensitive, and he became, and it was something like, I love hearing your voice, darling, or something, or I forget what it was. You can go back in and read that. I'm sorry, I don't have that one. I missed the follow up on that one, but there was something tender that he said and really sweet. And he's a sensitive guy who really keeps his cards close to his chest and doesn't really say much. And she responded by making, like, hanging up the phone, like basically saying, okay, good night. And she hung up. And she has been beating herself up thinking that this has been all her fault. Everything, because afterwards what happened was it never went back to being the same. He never, it was just never the same. And so they're not in a relationship. She doesn't, I think every 3-4 months she might reach out to him, but nothing. She feels like that was the pivotal moment that things were going to be like, it was an opening and things were going to get better. And I told her on that live last time, I told her that it wouldn't have made a difference. And she wrote to me that my response really helped, but she is still struggling to understand what I mean when I said, no, that wouldn't have made a difference. And so I had a note that I missed to tell you, but I'm getting it now, that I want to answer you on that one, because you are suffering so needlessly. And you're suffering, I really care about, because we suffer too much under regular circumstances, let alone something like that. Okay. And so what I want to say to you is that the reason why that would not have made a difference, this thing you think would have made all the difference in the world, the reason why that would not have made a difference is because eventually you guys had to cross that Rubicon. Eventually you had to cross that place where he was able to open up to you without you having a perfect answer, or without you responding in the way that he needed to, or you to, or without you being able to read his mind, or without you being able to anticipate. At some point, you cannot be that on everything. You cannot be that focused on someone that you can always pick up on the cues of what is expected of you and how perfect you are supposed to be with your behavior, or to recognize everything about him. And that is what you are beating yourself up about. And that is just so not the case. That if you had said to him, if you had said, I feel the same way, or whatever you want to insert there. Okay. Go ahead and insert what you think you would have said, because when you answer someone with what you think you should have said, you are still going to be back. Nothing magically changes just because you responded that way. What it means is that it would have delayed the inevitable. There is no way that he was going to be ready for something more. If you came back with a positive response, if you came back instead of mumbling something because you were uncomfortable or thrown off or whatever, and you hung up the phone and you stopped talking, and you feel like he felt rejected then because he put himself out there, right? And you rejected him. If that is all it took to just completely end all of his initiating contact with you, if that is what happened, and now it's so awkward and hardly, there's like nothing of like a bare friendship even, and you don't talk hardly at all. If that was enough to do it, everything would be capable of doing that. Everything would do that. You're going to have to be on like your best behavior all the time. You're going to have to be reading his cues all the time. You're going to have to be responding to what he needs all the time. And so I have just seen this so often to know that this suffering that you're putting yourself through is just not, it's unfair to you. And it's just so, it's needless, because nothing would have changed. And that is why I tell you, absolutely nothing would have changed, because it would only have delayed the inevitable. Okay. You go back and re-listen to that if you need to. But you are suffering, and it is not on you. This is because of a combination between you and him. He is not where he needs to be to move forward. And this is why it it never came up again. He never talked about it again. You gave him afterwards. You gave him every opportunity to restart that conversation, or to revisit that. You gave him every opportunity to do that, and nothing ever happened with that. Why? Because something had to still come from him. It cannot be that everything is up to you and that there is a magical thing that you can say or do, or when you replay it in your mind, if you had only said this, or if your reaction had only been different. A relationship's basis cannot be solely found on you. The entire reason that a relationship moves forward cannot be solely because one person says or does the right thing in that moment. You are allowed to have your feelings too, where you were taken aback, or you didn't know how to respond, or you were anxious or nervous, or whatever it was, or so. I mean, what that the entire demise of that relationship, or the possibility of what its potential could have been, cannot fall to one person in the relationship, and not certainly by two people who actually had a friendship, or something a little bit more than a friendship, but not quite like as much as you wanted. There is no way that that can dissolve into what it has dissolved into, unless it was always going to get to that point where it was going to dissolve into that at some point, when you just behaved a little less than perfectly in what he needed. That you'd have to be a mind reader. You would have to be, and I think you tried, you did a good job of reading all the situation. But anyway, so I want to tell you that, and I hope that just settles it. You only delay the inevitable when you think that if you had only done something different, it would have changed everything, because you might have alleviated it for that time. You might have allowed it to go a little bit better, but you're not going to completely change something so that all of a sudden it becomes this amazing relationship with so much potential just because of something you do. It is going to be that you can do something, but it would have to be who he is and what he's ready for. And there is no way that this guy is suddenly available and ready for like a full-on relationship compared to what just by you saying the right thing. He's either ready or he's not. And you simply allowing saying the right thing for him. You're human, and you're not supposed to be able to say the right thing all the time. Okay? And if you respond in a way that isn't perfect, right? With the situation, that is just way too much pressure. That's what the relationship would have looked like. You would have had to always have been one step ahead. And I know we try to do that. We try to be one step ahead, but it doesn't work that way. So, okay. Erica has proceeded to write a whole bunch of stuff in the chat. So I'm going to get to her, and then I'm going to sign off here. Erica, okay. Erica writes that her, okay. You guys can read this too, but for those of you not reading the chat, I'll read it for you. Hi, Jane. My ex-boyfriend, fiance dumped me. Oh, I'm sorry, Erica. Dumped me after being in a relationship during 9 years and 10 months. And I know by that 9 years and 10 months that you wrote it out, that you remember it was a significant amount of time. Yeah, no rounding up here, because that has all the feels there. That's yeah. Out of this time, we were 8.5 years in a long distance relationship, 1 year together due to the pandemic. And then he had to go back to the country he lives in since they went back to working at the office. Okay. After visiting him over Christmas, New Year's, he broke up with me over the phone 3 weeks after I came back to my country, giving me reasons that are not really true, at least from my perspective. Oh, I flew to talk to him in person, but besides being somewhat rude to me, it was to no avail as his mind was made up. And that's why someone's rude, right? Because his mind is made up. He doesn't want to be talked out of it. He's taken him long enough to figure out, and he doesn't want to have to, it hurts, right? So instead of dealing with that himself, it's easier to be rude and push you away. So that's hard. We had our ups and downs during a relationship, mainly due to stress factors like the long distance relationship, the pandemic, and mostly important big losses like my dad passed away, then my mom, as well as other important, that I went through. I'm going through a very hard time trying to make sense of what happened, and I'm at a profound loss as he was everything to me and my total support system, as I do not have any brothers or sisters. Why would he change so drastically and decide to abandon me? It's been a little over 8 weeks and total radio silence. What can you recommend me to do? Oh, Erica, I'm so sorry. That is so hard. And especially because there's hope, right? You guys actually, you're in this long distance relationship and then you're together through these other circumstances. Then he has to go back. And yeah. Okay. So, the first thing that I would try to do is rewrite the history of this in terms of the parts that aren't personal. So, by that I mean, so his like behavior here, right? Like even the rudeness, right? He's the rudeness is because of what's going on with him. So it's the same type of thing. The rudeness is because of that, not because of it makes it easier to push you away than it is to deal with this. So the part here about where he, so I want to tell you this. You've even flown to talk to him in person. So you've done what you can. So I want to settle that for you. Well, what you're doing right now is everything you can because you're giving him space. You are giving him space, and you giving him space and accepting what he has said, that is the one thing that can allow someone to have that time and space to rethink things, to realize how much he misses you, to recognize what it feels like to go from that long of a time to be with you, even though, that was almost all in with long distance. But the only thing that can do that, can have that effect, is space. And so you have given him that space. Okay. The reason why he changed, so I think that year together when he had to go back, I think it was a wake-up call for him about what he's actually capable of. I think he got a feel for what it was like, and I think he probably feels like he can't be unfair to you anymore. I think he probably felt like he needed to be honest with you because I think that gave him some retrospection here where he realized in looking, he was able to look back in retrospect and just see the relationship and see, and I think in that year he probably came to realize you want to be in a closer relationship, right? And I think it was a reality check for him that he prefers it that way, but it's not fair to you. I mean, clearly, in the midst of all those losses, someone would give you the benefit of the doubt, right? And someone would say, well, we were there together. If you end, like, I'm just saying, if he felt like you leaned on him too much, he would think that, well, there were losses, like a logical person thinks, right? These losses would mean that. Of course, she's going to need to lean on me. I think that he found out in that year, I think he probably found out that he got his trial run to see what it would be like to be in a actual relationship where it's not long distance anymore. And I think he probably found out that the long distance works well for him. But I think he found out for you, you probably, he was able to pick up on the fact, as would make sense, that was working for you. So I think he changed because he realized he can't give you what you need. And I think that he recognized he didn't want to do that to you anymore. I think he figured out he can't feel good about himself. And that, because when someone's rude to you, it's because he's fighting something within himself. There's no reason to be rude. And he didn't want you to change his mind, and he didn't want you to cause him to change or to feel badly about it. So that is my own that's what I believe happened here from what I've seen. He didn't, I know it feels like he abandoned you, but I just want to say one thing on the abandon. That's the script we give it, right? I will tell you, he did what he wanted to do for him. Does that change anything? I would really, I know it feels this way, but I really think this is the part that's making it really hard to get over him. I mean, anyone who can be 8 weeks with nothing, total silence, that 8 weeks is indicative of someone who really has compartmentalized love and relationships and feelings. And so he is determined to stick to this. He's mad at you, right? I mean, he's rude to you. He was mad. He was when he's rude, right? And his mind was made up. Why? Because he was disconnected. He compartmentalized your relationship, love, the point of being in relationships, maybe even like the meaning of life in there too. I think he went through something pretty heavy where he was able to realize that he can't do this anymore and he can't put you through this. He hasn't been honest and upfront, not that he's with anyone else, but honest and upfront about his ability of what he can and can't do. And so what I would do, I think your biggest help is to take the narrative out of this, that he abandoned you, because I don't see it that way. I see that he made a decision to do what he needed to do for him. And that this was not, as much as it feels like it's about you, as much as it feels personal and all that, I would take that out of this here. It hurts. There's no way through this except through. There's no way around. But yeah, this is going to be easier if you don't view it through the lens of he abandoned me. He actually showed you that he could no longer live kind of a lie. Again, not that I am going at all into, I'm not saying at all that there was anyone else or that it was anything because of you. I think he just realized that time together, this is what you want and this is what he can't commit to. And it's not fair to you to keep doing that. And he's not wanting to lead you on, and he's not wanting to tie you up from being with someone else. And I think it brought everything together. It just helped him, just enabled him to see that. And don't be looking at this as if I could have gone on. If we hadn't been, if that year didn't happen, we could have gone on. Don't look at it that way, because I have a feeling, what was lacking in those 8.5 years in that long distance relationship, it was probably similar, so you probably just didn't know those things were lacking because he wasn't there. But, so I hope that helps a little bit just to put it in the proper perspective. But what I would recommend you to do here is to see, what I would do? I would look, you need to see the full picture here in order to move past it. Because you can focus on getting out more and doing more things and having like a fresh start within your own life and mixing things up and doing things differently and going back to that little girl and discovering more of you and things you want to do and things you've never done before, and just living for yourself and just focusing on you and creating more of a life that reflects who you have become in that 8.5 years, with him. So, and you can get a new, you can do the normal things where you get a new look, get a makeover, all these different things you can do. But I really think that the thing that will help, first of all, change the abandon me piece, because that is a big part of this. Because if you can go back and look at, if you can feel the brunt of what that feels like, that someone abandoned you, that's going to make it really personal. That's going to make it harder, okay, to move on and get over him. But what I would do is I would go back to that 8.5 years and I would write down everything that was like a potential warning sign that this could even happen. I think there's going to be a lot more in those years where there were signs, where there were some red flags, where there were things there. I want you to see that life with him, and even that year together that you can attribute to a lot of those losses, which, yeah, those are real too. But at the same time, the ups and downs, like there's always going to be stresses. There's always going to be things. And so I would just look at that 8.5 years that you thought that were probably, pretty good, and just look at the reality of what were there signs in there? What was the reality of that? Who was he? How compatible do you see the two of you really in terms of what you both are looking for and what you both want here. So I think it's going back and reassessing kind of the relationship, maybe with a new light. And that may be difficult to do. And, I'm happy to do a session with you if you need to do that. But it is just, there's a perspective here that is going to make it hard to move on from this. And it is the perspective we always go to. And it's about the personal piece of it and how it feels to you, and the part where you feel you could have done something differently, or you feel that, that he did this to you because there was something that this was about you. This wasn't about you whatsoever. And so discovering that will help. But the bigger thing is just being able to see this relationship more objectively, because I have a feeling if you could tell me everything about him, and everything about you, I have a feeling if I sat down with you and I sat down with him, I think that it would be like so clear what happened. And you can't see that when you're coming out of it like this, and when you're mourning the loss of it. And wow, 8 weeks with silence is really hard. But I want to reassure you, you are going to get over this in your own time and in your own way. And I do not want you to listen to anyone who says you have to get out of it, or someone who tries to tell you all the things that were bad about him. And obviously there were some really, really good things about him, or else you wouldn't have been together for that long, right? But I think there's also some reality checks here on ways that maybe the two of you weren't as compatible as you thought, and those things might have mattered. It's easy to hide those things in long distance relationships. And I will say too, emotionally unavailable men, or men who lean that way, because there's a spectrum on there, but they love long distance relationships. That's where they hide. They live in long distance relationships. So there might have been elements of that in there too. I don't know, but I hope that helps, because I know it hurts, and I'm so sorry for your loss of your mom and dad. That is devastating to go through that. That is really, really hard. And so, yeah, so you've had a lot of loss and a lot there. So anyway, yeah, I hope that helps. I'm glad you asked that, and take good care of yourself. I recommend, really treating yourself with a lot of extra TLC, a lot of self-care here, because you've been through a lot with that. So it's not easy, and moving on is on your own time and in your own terms. Okay. Thanks for being here tonight, everyone. I'm glad. Thanks for being here and for being a part of this. And yeah, if you want to listen, if you joined midway or somewhere towards the end, you can replay back, and you can do that yourself. I'll send out the replay tomorrow, but you can also just back up and listen afterwards to the parts that you missed. Yeah, and then feel free to send me your questions if you didn't get a chance to answer them, or if I haven't answered them, or if you're watching the replay and I wasn't able to get to you, or you weren't able to ask, send me an email, and I'll save it for the next one. We'll try to do these every so often here, where I can talk to you here. And yeah, just remember that you are, you don't see yourself because you don't see yourself the way that you actually are. Like, you see all these things you're doing wrong, or you see all these things that you think you need to do better. You see all these things that are wrong with you, or you blame, whatever it is, right? You're too old, you're too, you're not attractive enough, or you're too, whatever it is, right? You have so many things that you say about yourselves. And whatever it is that you say, I just want to remind you that it's only because the lens that you are viewing yourself through has been so taken over and so influenced by people who have never been able to see you for who you are, and have never been able to understand you in the way that you deserve to be understood. And so the key really to changing any of this is to surrounding yourself with people who can actually see you. Because if the only evidence you have of who you are, the only way that you view yourself is through the eyes of everyone who has never been able to really see you, who has always been influenced through their own lens, so they either couldn't handle you or you were too much for them, but if they could only ever see you in relation to them and they were never able to see you, just you in and of yourself, then you are not going to have an accurate picture of who you are and what you bring to your relationships. And when you have only seen yourself essentially as being all wrong or this or that, one of the things I would invite you to do is to just look at the way that you have seen what you call your faults or what you call your shortcomings or what you call these things that you so want to change or you loathe about yourself because you've been told that in some story about yourself by someone who is incapable of seeing you. Turn that around and own that thing if it's true, right? If that thing is true, because I talk to a lot of women who have a really hard time. I had this one woman who said she was so scattered and she realized if she could only get her stuff together and just be able to be different, right, than she was, her business would be better and her relationships would be better and everything would be better because she's got this reputation, this label that's been placed on her that she's just such a mess. And I told her, if you could go out into the world and just own the mess, right? This label that someone has put on you, you would so quickly find that just lost its power over you. Because when you own something that is true, and when you then shake off what is not true, a clearer picture of yourself begins to emerge. And then you find yourself not finding people to reinforce the stories you've been told about yourself that are so negative and have you beating yourself up and thinking you're never going to find someone. I mean, it just changes so much. And it's hard to speak to this when you're in it because you won't believe me. And it's really hard to see it when you're in it because we dig in and it's so much easier to defend where we're at than it is to see something new. Because if we have to do something different, that's hard. It's hard to do something different. It's hard to look at ourselves differently. It's hard to believe something outside the story and the scripts that we've believed about ourselves. So if you can just do that, that's going to really help. Even just that will help. And beyond that, just, the company you keep, the people that you allow in your life, be the gatekeeper. Be the gatekeeper, because the people who are confident and strong and meeting new people and finding new relationships, those people are people who have discovered how to be their own gatekeepers and how to even recognize you have the right to be your own gatekeeper, right? So you allow who comes in and who doesn't get in, who you allow to, be infused with your energy, who you spend your energy and time, who you give your light to, who you care about, who you spend time with, all of these people who you give something to. When you give something to someone and you get nothing back, people who don't think like us would look at it as, okay, so this means I should not be with it. This is not my person. These are not my people. I don't want to be with people like this. What we do, we internalize the rejection or the feel or the way they treat us. And we think, oh, there's something wrong with me. I need to try harder. I need to do more. I need to do more to get them to like me. And that is just not true. So remember that, okay? And I'm going to leave you with that there. I'm really glad that this was able to help you guys. Thanks so much, Alex, Erica. I am so glad. Thank you for allowing me to help and to reflect back to you what I see so clearly from having been there and just from, what I see all the time. With even people, who women who have such a hard time believing it and having hope. There's always hope out there. There is always hope for you. Come on over to my gettingtotruelove.com website if you're interested in coaching. I have her email and regular phone, Zoom. I've got all my videos. I'm doing more videos, and I've got all my past lives are on there as well. So if you want to go back in and hear some more stories like yours and to gain some insights on that, you're welcome to do that too. And let me know. Send me an email if there's anything I can do to help. If you have a scenario you want me to address or talk to on my next live, send me an email. I am always here And like I said, I think my lives are, well, obviously I can have all this time, 3.5 hours go by and not even blink and realize I've been talking for this for that long. So anyway, thank you so much for being a part of this and for allowing me to come into your lives and help you and reflect back what I never want. Yeah, what I never got and what I never ever ever want anyone to go through without having someone to see them and to give them a new perspective that can be impossible to see when you're in it, going through it. All right. Good night, everyone, or good morning, depending on where we are. Or good next day if we're over in Australia, my time traveling place. And yeah, I will see you on the next one. Take care, everyone. Know that you are loved, and yeah, much love to all of you. Take care.